Hello, 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 my friends. Welcome back to another beautiful evening in the tavern. We were actually relatively on time tonight. No technical difficulties, fingers crossed. Uh, and I'm very excited to say that for the most part, I am caught up on my work. I am not overwhelmingly behind on anything. So those are all good things. GU2 finally tells me Tavern is live for the first time ever. Matty, thank you for the raid, by the way. Bobby, hello, hello. So very glad that you can make it in. Yeah, early means that more of you are available and awake, and I appreciate that. Destiny, hello, welcome in. Teresa, welcome. Frost, hello. The bear is in. Teresa, did I get everybody? We got the bear, we got Teresa, we got Destiny. Mary Beth is in over on Facebook. We got Bobby, Bear, Beard. Yep, I think I got everyone. Alright, let's go ahead and give a toot on the raid horn for Sir Chatty Matty for his raid in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You know what's funny though? If I look at just your regular name, Bonecracker Crafts, I can't read. What is that? Is that Russian? I don't want to insult you. I don't know actually what language that is, but I can't read either. So my reading of your language would actually sound like blah, 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 blah. It's Russian, but I'm Swedish. Oh, you're blah 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 blowing me when you're Swedish. How dare you? How dare you, my friend? The Swedish are almost as bad as the Irish with all that. Bear says, "Who are you and what have you done with Castle?" So the brilliant thing that I've done with Castle is made him get his work done. The almighty IKEA people, yes. Well known for their trapping people in their IKEA mazes. Never to return. Quirt, hello, hello. Do I need to turn off the noise gate on the mic so you guys can hear the Viking raspberries? No, so the lady and I have spent the last two to 3 weeks really getting caught up on everything. But Bonecracker Crafts, I'm glad that you dropped in. I don't know if you've ever been in for one of the story times, but on Tuesdays and Thursdays I read a story to you all. Right now we are in the midst of A Darkness at Sethanon by Raymond E. Feist, and then on Thursday we will be doing the final book in the Harry Potter series. We usually do about one chapter a night when we're on, and then we on Sundays my lovely wife will drop in and she does what is she reading right now? She's doing Child of Prophecy by Juliette Marie. I found your page today, so I'm happy to be here. Well, wonderful. Well, I'll give you the introduction. I am Castle, this is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore, and every now and again I read you all a bedtime story. This is a magical tavern at the end of the world where all stories eventually come to rest. And you found your way here through the portal because you sought a story, and the doors revealed themselves to you. Bobby said, what is this story about? This is a continuation of that magician book. So this is actually the fourth book in the magician book series. So you had the first book that we read was Magician, Master and Apprentice. Those are the first two books. We had them as one volume. And then we have, I think I still have it up over here. I do. Then we did Silverthorn, which we were going through for a while. And we just finished this one a couple of weeks ago. And now we have A Darkness at Sethanon. Now, Honey Bear, I'm from South Carolina. Much more it's different kinds of Southern. Teresa and Bear are different kinds of Southern. Also, what's going to happen to the tavern on Gilded? Where are we going? Sorry, anxious brain doing anxious things. Yeah, so Harry Potter is on Thursdays. I did the adult one earlier in the week so that the adults could have sort of a reprieve during their workday, and then the children's one is closer to the end of the week, so that there's that. Where are you from? So originally I'm from Ireland. I grew up in the south of Ireland, but I kind of grew up all over. My family are primarily from the Cork area. I grew up in Wicklow, but I kind of bounced all over. My last 2 years in Ireland, I lived in Belfast, and my family are all primarily from like the Limerick and Cork area, but we are Norwegian and Gaeilge. So we're Irish, and I was trying not to start saying all kinds of words that other people are going to know. We're primarily Norwegian and Gaeilge, so that's why my accent is weird. And I've lived in the United States for like 20 years, so I Americanize from my Americanized accent, and everybody in here tells me to stop, and I'm working on it. It's much better now than it was a while back. Rockhound, if that's the Rockhound I think it is, I haven't seen you in forever. Yeah, it was very nice. I come from a long line of traditional storytellers. My grandfather's family have been traditional in the line of the Sean Key storytellers for over 100 generations. Of course, Bobby, of course. What Matty over on. It's good to see you as well, Rock. I haven't seen you in forever. It's been a long time. Welcome in. To answer Matty's question, so for any of you who are new or who don't know what's going on, we do not have a Discord for the tavern. We have a Guilded. We have a guild where everybody can go. And that's where people... This is a cool LARP. I beg your pardon, sir, this is no LARP. This is a magical tavern at the end of the world where all stories eventually come to rest. And you found your way here because you sought a story. And welcome in. I am Castle, and this is my tavern. Dark Nexus, hello my friend, good to see you, welcome, welcome. Erin, hello, welcome in. We use Guilded for tavern things, and Guilded is being shut down. So about a year ago, Guilded was bought by a terrible company. I'm just saying you play a good character. Believe it or not, this is not a character. This is just who I am. The tavern is more of a character than I am. Destiny, Captain Hoodie there. She's known me for quite some time. I am a terrible actor. This is very little acting in what I do online. This is just who I am. I am this insufferable in real life. The good way to stay in character is to just be who you are. Oh, good lord. So last year, Guilded as a platform was purchased by a company, a terrible company, called Roblox. And they basically ruined the platform. But again, Guilded is it's like Discord. And now they're shutting it down. On December the 19th, it's being shut down. And our entire offline community is on Guilded. So we don't quite know what we're going to do yet. We just found out about this yesterday. So we're going to be looking at a few different options. The guild community is not going to go away. We just have to decide where we're going to migrate it to. The guild community is very important because it's where we have our writing competitions. It's where we have all of our learning resources, our cultural resources. So it's a very important asset for us, and we don't want to lose it. So we're trying to find another platform to migrate everything over to, which is going to be a nightmare because we have so much stuff in Guilded. It's going to be awful, but we're going to figure it out. It's not going to go away. and we're gonna figure it out. Mike, thank you for the follow over on TikTok. Welcome to the tavern, my friend. Rockhard, you said, yes, I've been MIA after a bad fall. Fell 14 feet and messed up my knee badly. Getting better slowly. Well, I'm glad you're alive. 14 feet's enough to kill you, you land rob. I'm glad you're alive. I suck at keeping up with the Gilded because this is the only thing I use it for. Which is fair enough, Court. I understand, like, we used Gilded because it has a higher functionality than Discord did. It was much more organized, it was much better as far as what it could handle capacity-wise, because we do so much. Like, we have a writing group, we have a gaming group, we have a personal betterment group, and then we have the general tavern, where we deal with things that are happening here in the tavern, and the stories and the projects that the lady and I are working on. And we wanted to keep all of that segregated so that people who just wanted to do one of the things didn't have to engage in all of the things. And with Discord, there's no real way to segregate those things. It's just one big long page that gets really overwhelming. Which is why we moved to Gilded in the first place, along with some ideological differences with Discord. So this is where we are. The lady and I are going to be doing research over the next couple of weeks, and we'll figure out what happens. We don't know yet what is going to happen, but that's kind of where we are. Dionysus, son of Zeus himself, thank you kindly. I appreciate you for the compliment. Luckily, I landed on a sand beach flat on my back. What could have been all worse? No kidding. Yeah, that's rough. I'm glad you're all right. Discord is a mess. Yeah, and we really don't want to go back to Discord. We're going to look at every available option and see what we can do. So we'll see what happens. And we'll keep you guys abreast of whatever we're doing for a long time. I did some reading, and Roblox is shutting down to promote their own community section and not run too similar things. Yeah, so essentially they bought Gilded so that they could take all of they bought Gilded, forced everybody to make a Roblox account, and now they are forcing everybody to go into Roblox community, which is their own communication and community platform, and it's terrible. I don't want to support Roblox. Roblox is a terrible company, and I don't like them just in general. But again, this is where we are. We're gonna figure out what to do and move forward from there. Oh Lord, Dionysus, the irony, I literally was just editing an interlude mentioning a character by that same name. That's very funny. I'm not sure if I can say your name out loud and not get banned from TikTok, but person who's attracted to pans, welcome in. So very glad you could join us. Where are you coming in from? I hope that answers everybody's questions about the guild issue and the tavern community, the guild. Whatever ends up happening, we're going to be very transparent with it, and we'll see what we can do. If you guys have any questions while my head is down, Captain Hoodie is our resident barmaid. She's the head barmaid over on TikTok, and then we have anyone who's got a sword next to their name over on Twitch is a barkeep over there. It's cool, just call me Pans. I will call you Pans. It would be a lot to say all of that every time. Not the first time you've run into issues like this, you've always figured it out. I appreciate your vote of confidence, Rockhound. Yeah, we've had these sorts of issues a couple of times, but we'll get it figured. We'll get it figured. Sir, would you happen to be interested in a theatre play? It would make Ares or Zeus proud. I'm not sure what you mean. I do enjoy certain theatre plays. I myself I don't think I would do well in a theatre play. I do voice work if it's requested of me, but I don't think that I would be. Are you in? So are you asking me to be in one? Show me one, or what is the question there? All right, we're gonna get started on story time as well, friends. I waffled for a bit, and again, if you guys have any questions, please hail one of the barkeeps. They will help you out and make sure that you are kept all well. But Pans, welcome in. Thank you for the follow. So very glad that you could join us. Are you coming in from elsewhere? Are you coming in from the watch page? Where are you coming in from, Pans? And be nice. You don't get called the Scorch Queen for nothing. Yeah, we got a wild bear and a Scorch Queen in here. Voice of the Void. Hello, my friend. Welcome in. So very glad you could join us. So let me see where we are. Santana, the legend. Hello, my friend. Thank you kindly for the resub over on Twitch. Tips to the Tavern Keeper always appreciated. Enjoy your mead of the Morning Star. Then that's right. Matty will also chat you to death if you break any of the rules. I'd forgotten about that. Santana, hello, brother. Good to see you. Welcome in. Just a random rec on Twitch. Viewers also watch. Interesting. Well, I'm very glad that you made it in. I am Castle. This is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore. Every now and again, I read you all a story. Tonight we're in Darkness at Sethanon by Raymond E. Feist. And if you are interested in mythology, lore, or anything having to do with storytelling, you can go through any of the other portals and find more of the stories that we put out on a regular basis. I am such a doofus. I forgot to run ads while I was waffling. Alright, we're going to run ads for Twitch real quick so that they get an hour without them, and then we'll start. So 3 minutes, and then story's going to start. So if you've got to pee, you've got to go get a drink, you need to walk a dog, do it very quickly, go do that, and we'll start in 3 minutes on the dot. How you doing, Santana? I have surgery on Friday. Surgery for... You've broken... How did you break bones in your foot? Your foot is important, Santana. Don't break bones in your foot. No foot bone breaking. How did you do that? So what happened? How did you break bones in your foot, babe? Hang on, guys. I apologize for saying... We're running ads on Twitch at the moment, but I need to figure out how Santana broke bones in his foot. It'll depend. We've got until December 19th to figure it out. They're going to start shutting down functionality in November, but we have until December 19th to get it all figured out. We're obviously not going to wait till the last minute to do that, but we'll get it all sorted. I broke the seismoid bones. It's an old injury from about 12 years ago. So wait, have the bones been broken for 12 years, or did you do something else that caused them to re-break? Marybeth is hoping that your foot heals quickly, Santana. As am I. Feet are... Breaking bones in your feet, breaking ribs, are the absolute worst. It's terrible. Because there's nothing really that you just have to kind of wait for them to heal and try not to put too much stress on them. Yeah, I was gonna say, that sounds very much like the military. So you've had broken bones in your foot? 12 years? That's insane. I see. So they're healing incorrectly and you break them easily. I broke 2 ribs in basic and they told me to walk it off. For broken ribs is really what you have to do is you have to walk it off. Well, 13 years. That's crazy. Beauty and Blasphemy, hello! Good to see you. Shattered my foot once. It was absolutely... Yeah. Breaking bones in your hand, because there's so many little bones in there and bones in your feet. And ribs is the worst. And your hips. If you do any sort of damage in the hips, there's nothing you can do. You just have to sit and wait for it to heal. I used a walking boot since I'm a danger on grudges. My brother, back in the day, was carrying our nephews down some stairs, and he slipped on the last step and just snapped his ankle. And because of the work that he was doing at the time, he had to wear an L brace for his leg, so he's basically kneeling down on a crutch for months. Can you say, Zeus, your son has arrived, as a quote from Kratos? Zeus, your son has arrived! Like that? Is that good? Or I can do it, I can be more angry. Zeus, your son has arrived! Something like that. You're welcome, Dionysus. The dog said they are pulverized. Well, yeah, you're probably walking on dust at this point. Santana, that's terrible. Absolutely dreadful. Oh, Tyson, I forgot to say hello to you. I saw you pop in on YouTube and I missed you. Hello, Tyson. Good to see you, brother. I've broken almost all my ribs through the years racing. BMX and dirt bikes, you're bound to break some ribs. That'll happen. Tim, hello, my friend. Good to see you. We're just getting started with Storytime, friends, so settle in. I went to PT today for my back and hip. Physical therapist twisted me around like a pretzel, but I feel better, thank you. That's good. Well, at least it isn't a bun. But looking on the bright side, as ever. Alright, kids, settle in. And we will begin. Can you say Heather, please? Now, do you want me to say Heather, please? Or would you like me just to say Heather? Either way, I did both, I suppose. I'm reconsidering to continue Hook's Vendetta. You should. It's something you're passionate about. Do it. Esther, hello. I hope you and Elsie are well. You got in just in time for me to say hello. I was about to look down. And you would have been a ghost because I wouldn't have been looking at the screen. I only have 3 weeks to recover on this one. Not nearly enough. Not nearly enough. I broke 2 ribs in basic falling off an obstacle course. They just told me to walk it off. Well, really, with broken ribs is what you have to do, but you do still have to make sure that you don't overdo it. Really. Alright, friends. Ads are done over on Twitch. Let's go ahead and begin. So we are on chapter 3 of A Darkness at Sethanon. And the chapter is called Murder. You see, what were we doing in the last chapter? Because it's been a couple of weeks because of technical difficulties. Yes, that is me, the ghost. Yes, indeed. That's just to where I can walk again. That's not working out again. Santana, please be careful on your motorcycle, my friend. Please be careful. I just had a friend pass away from a hit-and-run accident. Very dear friend and mentor of my brother and I's. He got hit, and that was the end of it. Is the music too loud? The music is barely showing up over here for me. So there, I turned it down a bit. Drop it down a little bit more there. So just please, I'm not even worried about your skill. People do not pay attention to motorcycle riders. Please be careful. I know you do it for fun. Jaeger does it for fun too, and I wish he wouldn't. But if you're going to do it, please, please, please be careful. Yeah, there are a couple of songs in this playlist that just crop up and then they're very loud. And then they go away, so I apologize for that. Yeah, people are just not careful with the way that they drive. You have to be very careful. Alright, let's begin. And I will get some background on where we were, so let's see. So they had just confirmed that the assassins were back in the city. The assassins were back at the Prince's city, and they were coming for Arutha. Now, Arutha is the main character of this book, and the previous book, Silverthorn. The last book was entirely about him trying to find a cure to the poison that had been given to his wife. or wife-to-be. Now they've just had 2 sons, there's a party going on, and 2 people tried to sneak into the palace to kill Arutha. And now they are planning to take out the den where these thieves are at. James, hello, good to see you. I'll pour a meat and get cozy. Do just that, my friend. Do just that. Welcome in. And everybody, settle in, grab your seats, fill your mugs. We're about to begin. So we are still in the midst of the night where they discovered that there were assassins coming for Arutha. Arutha's lookalike was someone who looked almost exactly like him had broken into the palace and tried to kill him. And then Jimmy the Hand, or Jimmy the Squire, managed to tell them apart and kill the imposter. Elaine, hello, welcome in. So very glad that you could join us. Welcome. Poisoned during their wedding ceremony, no less. Yeah, it was the ultimate just poor timing. So now Arutha, he's locked in. He is angry. He is. I would go so far as to say he's pissed off, and he wants to make sure nobody touches his 2 beautiful new boys, and nobody touches his lovely wife. So everyone settle in, quiet down, grab a glass, and let us begin. I'm doing quite well, as we've had a lot going on. We've had quite a few passings in the family, of good friends and family, but in spite of the fact that we've had a hard couple of weeks, we're all caught up on work, which is a wonderful thing, and we're doing quite well. And this is not something that really matters to anybody, but things for the tavern are looking up. We're headed towards a potentially very bright future for the tavern. We're not quite there yet, but we're headed in that direction, and I'm happy for it. Chapter 3 of A Darkness at Sethanon. Murder. Armed men stood ready. Frondor was still celebrating, but Arutha had proclaimed a second day of festival, with a weak explanation that as there were 2 sons, there should be 2 days of presentation. The announcement had been greeted with enthusiasm by all in the city, save the palace staff. But Master of Ceremonies de Lacey had quickly gotten things under control. Now, with celebrants still crowding inns and alehouses, as festive mood of the day before seemed to increase, the passing of many men, seemingly off duty, not acknowledging one another, was scarcely noticed. But by midnight, they had gathered in 5 locations: the common room of the Rainbow Parrot Inn, 3 widely scattered warehouses controlled by the Mockers, and aboard the Royal Raven. At a prearranged signal, the incorrect ringing of the time by the city watch, the 5 companies would begin to make their way towards the stronghold of the Brotherhood of Assassins. Arutha led the company assembling at the Rainbow Parrot. Trevor Hall and Aaron Cook commanded the seamen and soldiers entering the sewers by boat. Jimmy, Gardon, and Captain Valdis would lead the companies hiding in the old warehouses through the streets of the poor quarter. Jimmy glanced around as the last soldiers slipped quietly through the narrowly open doors of the warehouse. The Mocker's storehouse for stolen goods was now thoroughly crowded. He returned his attention to the single window, through which he observed the street that led straight to the Nighthawk's stronghold. Rold consulted an hourglass, which he had turned when the last hour the door of the warehouse... completely skipping lines. Which he had turned when the last hour had been run by the city watch. Soldiers listened by the door of the warehouse. Jimmy again glanced at the assembled company. Lottie, who had unexpectedly appeared with Rold an hour before, gave Jimmy a nervous smile. It's more comfortable than the caves below Mora Lane. Jimmy returned a half smile to the uninvited participant of the night's raid. Right, he said. The singer-turned-noble was laughing off the worry they all felt. They were ill-prepared in many ways, and had no sense of how many servants of Mermandamus they were facing. So for those of you who are new, Mermandamus is sort of a god or demigod, we don't really quite know. He's sort of a primordial power who has the ability to bring people back from the dead and force them to fight for him. But the appearance of the false prince had heralded a new round of assaults by the Moradel agents, and Arutha had been empathetic about the need for speed. Or emphatic about the need for speed. It had been Arutha's decision to assemble his raiders quickly and attack the Nighthawks before another dawn came to Krondor. Jimmy had urged more time to scout the area, but the prince had remained intractable. Jimmy had made the mistake of confiding to Arutha how close he had come to being discovered. Also, Nathan reported the impostors now dead. And Arutha judged that they had no way of knowing if he had accomplices in the palace, or his compatriots other means of learning of his success or failure. They ran the risk of discovering an ambush or, worse yet, an empty nest. Jimmy understood the prince's impatient, but still wished for one more scouting trip. They couldn't even be certain they'd blocked all avenues of escape. They had sought to increase their chances of success by sending large amounts of ale and wine into the city, gifts from the prince to the citizens. They were aided by the mockers, who diverted a disproportionate number of barrels and casks into the poor quarter, especially Fishtown. The honest population of Fishtown, however, a small number that might be, thought Jimmy ruefully, would be happily in the collective cups by now. Then someone said, "Watch bell's ringing." Rold glanced at his glass. There was still a quarter hour's sand in it. "That's the signal!" Jimmy was the first through the door, leading the way. His company of seasoned soldiers would reach the Nighthawk's lair first. Jimmy was the only one who had even a glimpse of the interior of the building, so he had volunteered to flush them out. Gardan and Valdis's companies would be close in support, flooding the streets surrounding the target building with soldiers in the prince's tabards as Jimmy's men assaulted the stronghold. The companies under Arutha and Trevor Hull had already entered the sewers through the basement trapdoor in the Rainbow Parrot, and the smugglers' tunnel at the dock. They were already closing in below the Nighthawks, and would be responsible for blocking any escape routes in the sewers the assassins would likely take. Soldiers fanned out to either side, hugging the shadows as they moved quickly down the narrow street. The orders had called for stealth if possible, but with this many armed men moving at once, speed was more important, and the orders had been to attack at once should they be spotted. Jimmy scouted after reaching the intersection closest to the Nighthawks building and discovered no guards in sight. He waved towards two narrow side streets, indicating the need to block them. Soldiers hurried to comply. When they were in position, Jimmy moved toward the entrance of the building. The last 20 yards to the door were the trickiest, for there was little cover in sight. Jimmy knew the Nighthawks probably had kept the area before the door free of concealing debris against the possibility of a night such as this. He also knew that there was likely to be one lookout in the second floor corner room, overlooking the two streets leading to the intersections with the nestled building. A distant sound of metal on stone echoed from the others approaching the building, and Jimmy knew Gordon's men were also approaching. Just as Valdis's company would be coming up from behind Jimmy's, they saw movement in the second-story window and froze for a moment. He had no idea if he'd been spotted, but he knew if he had, someone would be out quickly to investigate, unless he could allay suspicions. He staggered away from the wall a moment, and then fell forward, arms outstretched to support himself, another drunk vomiting excess wine from a tormented stomach. Turning his head, he knew Rold was only a short distance behind the gloom. Between loud retching noises, he softly said, "Get ready." After a moment, he resumed a staggering walk toward the corner building. He paused once more, then continued on. The entire way he sang a simple ditty as if to himself, hoping he passed for a late celebrant on his way home. Nearing the entrance of the building, he staggered away as if to turn the corner to the next street, then jumped to the wall next to the door. Jimmy held his breath and listened. A muffled sound as if someone spoke could be discerned. There seemed to be no tone of alarm. Jimmy nodded, then staggered out, a short way down the connecting street to where Gordon's company waited. He leaned against the wall and feigned being sick again, then yelled something mindless and happy, and hoped that the yell would momentarily distract the lookout. A dozen men quickly came up the street, carrying a light ram, and positioned themselves while 4 bowmen knocked arrows behind them. They had a directed line of fire to the windows on the second floor, as well as the entrance to the building. Jimmy staggered back toward the building, then, when he reached the point below the window, he could see an inquisitive head stuck out to follow his progress. The sentry had watched his performance and had not noticed the approaching raiders. Jimmy hoped Rogue knew what to do. An arrow sped through the night, showing the mercenary had seized the moment. As if there was a second lookout above, they lost nothing by killing the first. If not, they gained additional moments of surprise. The lookout seemed to lean farther out, as if attempting to follow Jimmy's movement along the wall. He kept coming out of the window until he fell onto the street a few feet behind the youngster. Jimmy ignored the body. One of Gordon's men would be cutting the man's heart out soon enough. Jimmy reached the door, pulled his rapier, and signaled the 6 men with the ram, a beam with fire-hardened end, stepped forward. They quietly rested the end against the door, pulled it back, and then 3 men took measuring swings. On the 4th crash, the ram against the door had been bolted, not barred, and it exploded inwards, sending splinters flying from around the lock plate, and men scrambling for weapons. Before the men who held the ram could let it fall and draw weapons, a flight of arrows sped past them. Rold and his men were through the door as the ram struck the stone, and bounced. The sounds of fighting, screams, and oaths filled the room, as other voices shouted questions from other parts of the building. Jimmy took in the layout of the room with a single glance and swore in frustration. He spun to confront the sergeant leading the 2nd company. "They've opened doors to a building on the other side of the walls, behind this one. There's more rooms here." He pointed to the 2 doors through which the questioning shouts had ensued. The sergeant led his detachment off at once, splitting his squad and sending men through both doors. Another sergeant led his group up the stairs, while Rold and Norrie's men overwhelmed the few assassins in the first room and began searching for trapdoors in the floor. Jimmy ran to the door that he was certain led to the room above the sewers, kicked open the door and found a dead Nighthawk and a Ruther's men coming up through the trap. There was a second door out of the room, and Jimmy thought he saw someone duck around a corner. Jimmy followed after, shouting for someone to follow him, and turned the corner, and he dodged to one side, but no expected ambush remained. The last time he'd fought a Nighthawk, a Ruther's raiders had found the assassins determined to die rather than be captured. This time they seemed determined to flee. Jimmy ran down the corridor, a half-dozen soldiers at his heels. He pushed open the side door and found 3 dead Nighthawks on the floor of a room behind the first they had entered. Already soldiers prepared torches. Arutha's orders had been specific. All the dead were to have their hearts cut from their bodies and burned. No black slayers would rise from the grave this night to kill from Mandamis. Jimmy shouted, "Did someone run by here?" One soldier looked up. "Didn't see anyone, Squire. But we were busy up to a moment ago." Ashley, hello, hello. Sorry I'm super late at a family supper. I'll be with everyone shortly. That's quite all right. I'm glad that you made it in. Pistol, hello. Good to see you too. I'm so glad that you joined us. Milu, hello. Take a second and hydrate here. Erin, thank you for the drink. I appreciate you for that. Pistol, it's good to see both you and Ashley in. I know you guys have both been busy, so it's good to see you. Herring, hello, good to see you. Welcome, welcome. Cristala also coming in. Hello, welcome. Got so many tavern folk in tonight, it's exceptional. Glad to see it. That's quite alright, Herring. You know you're allowed to come in, grab a drink, and snuggle into the corner. Alright, let us continue. Jimmy nodded once and ran down the hall. Rounding a corner, he discovered a hand-to-hand struggle underway in a connecting corridor. He dodged between the guardsmen who were quickly overwhelming the assassins and ran towards another door. It was not entirely closed, as if someone had slammed it behind him, but not stopped to see if it was shut. Jimmy shoved it wide and stepped into a broad alley. Across from him were 3 open and unguarded doors. Jimmy felt his heart sink. He turned to discover Arutha and Gardan behind him. Arutha cursed in frustration. What had once been a large, burned-out building had been replaced by several smaller ones, and there where a solid wall had stood, now doors invited passage. Not one of Arutha's soldiers had arrived in time to prevent anyone from fleeing by this route. "Did anyone escape this way?" asked the prince. "I don't know," answered Jimmy. "One, I think. Through one of those doors." A guard turned to Gardan and asked, "Shall I pursue, Marshal?" Arutha turned back into the house as shouts of inquiry came from nearby buildings. From citizens of Fishtown awakening by the fight. "Don't bother," said the prince flatly. "As certain as the sunrise, there are doors to other streets in those homes. We failed this night." Gardan shook his head. "If anyone was already there, they might have bolted as soon as they heard us attack." The other guards came up the narrow alley, many with bloodied clothing. One ran to the prince. "We think 2 escaped down the other side street, Harness." Arutha pushed past the man and re-entered the building. Reaching the main room, he found Valdis overseeing the guards as they conducted the grisly work of ensuring no undead assassins rose again. Grimly, the men cut deeply into the chest of each dead man and removed his hearts. The hearts were burned at once. As breathless sailors appeared and said, "Your Highness, cut 'em whole! Says you should come quick!" Arutha, Jimmy, and Gardan left the room as Rode and Lottie came into view, weapons still in hand. Arutha regarded his blood-splattered brother-in-law and said, "What are you doing here?" "I just came along to keep an eye on things," he answered. Rode looked sheepishly at the prince as Lottie added, "He never could lie with a straight face. He asked me to go gambling. I knew something was up." Arutha waved away for the comment and followed the sailor to the room leading to the sewer. And down the ladder, the others coming after him. They moved down the tunnel where Hull and his men waited in their boats. Hull motioned for Arutha to board, and he and Gardan entered one boat. Jimmy rowed and Lottie another. They were rowed to a large convergence of 6 channels. A boat was tethered to a mooring ring in the stone, and from a trap in the ceiling above hung a rope ladder. We stopped. 3 boats of them coming up, but this one got past. When he reached here, they had all escaped. How many? Said the prince. Half, maybe half dozen, answered Hull. Arutha swore again. We lost maybe 2 or 3 down the side street, and now we know this lot got away. We may have as many as 12 Nighthawks loose in the city. He paused for a moment, then looked at Gardan, his eyes narrowing in controlled anger as he said, Krondor is now under martial law. Seal the city. For the second time in 4 years, Krondor endured martial law. When Anita had escaped from her captivity in her father's palace, and Jocko Radburn, Guy Dubastira's captain of the secret police, had sought her out, the city had been sealed. Now the princess's husband searched out the city for possible assassins. The reasons might be different, but the effects on the populace were the same. And coming on the heels of celebration, martial law was double bitter drought for the people to swallow. Within hours of the order of martial law being given, the merchants began to troop to the palace to lodge their complaints. First came the shipbrokers, whose commerce had been disrupted as their vessels were held in port and denied entrance to the harbour. Trevor Hall led the squadron assigned to the blockade duty, since the former smuggler knew every trick used to run a blockade. Twice ships attempted to leave, and both sides they were intercepted and boarded, their captains arrested, and their crews confined to ship. In both cases, it was quickly determined that the motive had been profit and not escape from Arutha's retribution. Still, since it was not known who they were searching for, any man arrested was kept in the city jail, the palace dungeon, or in the prison barracks. Soon the shipbrokers were followed by the freight haulers, then the millers, when farmers were kept out of the city, then others, which, with a reasonable request to have the quarantine of the city lifted just for his special case, all were denied. Kingdom law was based upon the concept of great freedom, the common law. Each man freely accepted service to his master, except the occasional criminal condemned to slavery or bondsman serving indentures. Nobles received the benefit of rank in exchange for protecting those under their rule, and the network of vassalage rose from common farmer, paying rent to his squire or baron, who paid taxes to his earl, and in turn the earl served his duke, who answered to the crown. But when the rights of free men were abused, those free men were quick to voice their displeasure. There were too many enemies within and without the boundaries of the kingdom for an abusive noble to keep his position overly long. Raiding pirates from the Sunset Islands, pagan privateers, goblin bands, and always the Brotherhood of the Dark Path, the Dark Elves, demanded some internal stability from the kingdom. Only once in its history had the populace borne oppression without open protest, under the rule of Mad King Roderick, Liam's predecessor. For the ultimate recourse to grievance was the crown. Under Roderick, lese majesty had been reinstated as a capital crime, and men could not express their grievances publicly. Liam had again struck that offence from the laws of the land. As long as treason was not espoused, men were free to speak their minds, and the free men of Krondor spoke their displeasure loudly. Krondor became a city in turmoil, her stability a thing of the past. For the first few days of martial law there had been grumbling, but as the seal on the city entered its second week, shortages became commonplace. Prices rose as demands exceeded supply, and the first alehouse near the docks ran out of ale. A full-scale riot ensued. Arutha ordered curfew. Armed squads of royal household guards patrolled the streets along the normal city watch. Agents of both the Chancellor and the Upright Man eavesdropped on conversations, listening for hints to where the assassins lay. And freemen protested. Jimmy hurried down to the hall towards the prince's private chambers. He had been sent to carry messages to the commander of the city watch, and was returning to the commander at his side. Arutha had become a man driven by his need to find the hidden assassins. He had put aside all other matters. The daily business of the principality had slowed, and then had finally come to a halt, while Arutha searched for the Nighthawks. Jimmy knocked upon the door to the prince's chamber. He and the commander of the watch were admitted. I just want to make sure I hadn't missed anybody. I hope everybody is behaving and enjoying themselves. Jimmy went to stand next to Lorien, the Duchess Carline, while the commander came to attention before the prince. Gardon, Captain Valdis, and Earl Volney were arrayed before the prince's chair. Arutha looked up at the commander. Commander Bain, I sent you orders. I didn't request your presence. The commander, a greying veteran who had begun service 30 years before, said, Highness, I read your orders. I came back with the squire to confirm them. They are correct as written, Commander. Now, is there anything else? Commander Bain flushed, his anger apparent as he bit off each word. Yes, your highness. Have you lost your bloody mind? Everyone in the room was stunned by the outburst. Before Gardon or Volney could censure the commander's remarks, he continued. This order as written means I'll be putting up more than 1,000 men in lockup in the first place. Commander! Snapped Volney, recovering from his surprise. Ignoring the stout earl, the commander plunged forward with his complaint. In the first place, this business of arresting anyone not commonly or well known to the last 3 citizens of good standing means every sailor and condor, for the first time, traveller, vagabond, minstrel, drunk, beggar, whore, gambler, or just plain stranger, are to be whisked away without hearing before the magistrate in violation of the common law. Second, I don't have men to do the job properly. Third, I don't have enough souls to put all those who are picked up. And questioned. Not even enough for those who will stay on due to unsatisfactory answers. Hell, I can barely find room for the ones who are already behind bars. And last, the whole thing stinks to high heaven. Man, are you daft? You have an open rebellion in the city within 2 weeks. Even the bastard Radburn never tried anything like this. Commander! That would be enough, roared Gardon. You forget yourself, said Volney. It's his highness who forgets himself, my lords. And unless His Majesty has been returned to the list of felonies of the kingdom, I'll speak my mind. Arutha fixed the commander with a steady gaze. Is that all? No, by half, snapped the commander. Will you rescind this order? Showing no emotion, Arutha said. No. The commander reached for his badge of rank and pulled it from his tunic. And find another to punish the city, Arthur Condoyne. Or not do it. Fine. Arutha took the badge. He handed it to Captain Valdis and said, Locate another senior watchman and promote him. The now former commander said, He'll not do it. Highness, the watch is with me to a man. He leaned forward, knuckles on Arutha's conference table, until his eyes were level with the prince's. You better send in your army. My lads will have none of it. When this is over, it'll be them who'll be in the streets after dark, in 2s and 3s, trying to bring sanity back to the city gone mad and hateful. You brought this on us. You deal with it. Arutha spoke evenly. That will be all. You're dismissed, he said to Valdez. Send a detachment from the garrison and take command of the watch post. Any watchman who wishes to stay employed is welcome. Any who refuses by this order is to be stripped of his tabard. Biting back hot words, the commander stiffly turned and left the room. Jimmy shook his head and shot a worried glance at Laurie. Former minstrel would understand as well as the former thief what sort of trouble was brewing in the streets. For another week, Krondor stagnated under martial law. Arutha turned a deaf ear to all requests to end the quarantine. By the end of the third week, every man or woman who had not properly identified was under arrest. Jimmy had communicated with agents of the Upright Man, who assured Arutha that the mockers were conducting their house cleaning. 6 bodies had been found floating in the bay so far. Now Arutha and his advisors were ready to conduct the business of interrogating the captives. A large section of warehouses in the north end of the city, near the Merchant's Gate, had been converted to jails. Arutha, surrounded by a company of grim-faced guards, looked over the first 5 prisoners brought forward. Jimmy stood off at one side and could hear a soldier mumble to another. At this rate, we'll be here a year taking in all these lads. For a while, Jimmy watched as Arutha, Gardon, Voldy, and Captain Valdez questioned prisoners. Many were obviously simple fellows caught up in the business they didn't understand. And they were consummate actors. All looked filthy, ill-fed, and half frightened, half defiant. Jimmy became restless and left the scene. At the edge of the crowd, he discovered that Laurie had taken a seat on a bench outside the alehouse. Jimmy joined the Duke of Salador and said, They've only some homemade left. It's not cheap, but it's cool. He looked on while Arutha continued interrogations under the summer sun. Jimmy wiped his forehead. This is a sham. It accomplishes nothing. Nico Womp, hello and welcome in. So very glad that you could join us. Go ahead and grab yourself a seat, settle in. We are having story time. We are in the midst of... What are the Nighthawks? The ones they are after. Why are the Nighthawks the one they... Is it the same group that tried to assassinate? Yes, it is. So the Nighthawks are the same group of assassins they thought had been completely expelled from the city. But they discovered another den of them. And a lookalike of Arutha had been trying to sneak into the palace to kill Arutha. Been creeping for a while. This is very lovely. Well, I'm very glad you enjoy yourself. I'm glad you've found a seat here in the tavern. It's great here even to creep. It is a fine place to creep. There's always an extra chair in the corner where you can grab a mug and just settle in. It lessens Arutha's temper. I've never seen him like this. Not even when we were racing the Moor Lane. He's angry, frightened, and feeling helpless. Laurie shook his head. I've learned a lot from Caroline about my brothers-in-law. One thing about Arutha, if you don't already know, being helpless is something he can't abide. He walks in to a blind alley and his tempers won't allow him to admit he's facing a stone wall. Besides, he lifts the seal on the city and the Nighthawks are free to come and go at will. So what? They're in the city at any event. And no matter what Arutha thinks, there's no guarantee they're locked up. Maybe they've infiltrated a court staff. Maybe the way they did the mockers last year. Who knows? Jimmy sighed. If Martin was here, or maybe the king, we might have this business at an end. Laurie drank and grimaced at the bitter taste. Maybe. You've named only 2 men in the world he's likely listened to. Carline and I have tried to talk to him, but he just listens patiently and then says no. Even Gardon and Voldney can't budge him. Jimmy watched the prince's interrogations for a little longer, while 3 more groups of prisoners were brought out. Well, some good will come of this. 4 men have been turned loose. And if they're picked up by another patrol, they'll be tossed into another lockup, and it might be days before anyone gets around to checking out their claims of having been turned loose by the prince. And the other 16 that have been returned to lockup, all we can hope for is Arutha realizing soon that this will gain him nothing. The festival of Banapus is less than 2 weeks off, and if the seal isn't lifted by then, there will be a citywide riot. Laurie's lips tightened in frustration. Maybe if there was some magic way to tell who was a Nightwalk or who was not. Jimmy sat up. What? What? What you just said? Why not? Laurie turned slowly to face the squire. What are you thinking? I'm thinking it's time to have a chat with Father Nathan. You coming? Laurie put aside his mug of bitter beer and rose. I have a horse tied up over there. We've ridden double before. Come along, Your Grace. For the first time in days, Laurie chuckled. Nathan listened with his head tilted to one side while Jimmy finished his idea. The priest of Song the White rubbed his chin a moment, looking more a former wrestler than a cleric, while he thought. There are magical means of impelling someone to tell the truth, but they are time-consuming and not always reliable. I doubt we'd find such means any more useful than what is being presently employed. His tone revealed that he didn't think much of the means presently being employed. And what of the other temples? Inquired Laurie. They have means that differ little from our own. Small things and ways of spells are constructed. The difficulties do not lessen. Jimmy looked defeated. I've hoped for some way to pluck the assassins from the mass wholesale. I guess it isn't possible. Nathan stood up behind the table in Arutha's conference room, appropriated while the prince was overseeing the questioning. Only when a man dies and is taken to Limskragmar's domain are all questions answered. Jimmy's expression clouded as the thought struck, and then he brightened. That could be it. What could be it? Can't kill them all. No, said Jimmy, dismissing the absurdity of the remark. Look, can you get the priest of Limskragmar Julian to come here? Nathan remarked wryly. You mean the priest Julian of the Temple of Limskragmar? You forget he rose to supremacy when his predecessor was rendered mad by the attack on this palace. Nathan's face betrayed a flicker of emotion, for the priest of Song himself had defeated the undead servant of Myrmandamus at no little cost. Nathan was still plagued by nightmares from that event. Oh, said Jimmy. If I request, he may grant us an audience, but I doubt he'll be come running here because I ask. I may be the prince's spiritual advisor, but in temple rank I am simply a priest of modest achievements. Well, then see if he will see us. I think if he'll cooperate, we might find an end to all this madness in Krondor. But I want to have the Temple of Limskragmar cooperation before I blab the idea to the prince. He might not listen otherwise. I'll send a message. It would be unusual for the temples to become involved in city business, but we've had closer relationships with each other and the officers of the principality since the appearance of Myrmandamus. Perhaps Julian will kindly dispose to cooperate. I assume there's a plan in this. Yes, said Laurie. Just what have you got up your voluminous sleeves of yours? Jimmy cocked his head and grinned. You'll appreciate the theatre of it, Laurie. We'll whip up some mummery and scare the truth out of the Nighthawks. The Duke of Sethanon sat back and thought on what the boy had said. After a moment of consideration, His blonde beard was slowly parted by a wide grin. Nathan exchanged glances with the two as understanding came, and he too began to smile, then to chuckle. Seeming to think he forgot himself, the cleric of the goddess of the one path composed himself, but again broke into an ill-conceived fit of mirth. Just a second, friend. Jazz, hello, good to see you. Welcome in. Thank you for the resub over on Twitch. Off to band practice. Wish I could stay and listen. Have a great band practice, Jazz. I appreciate you for dropping in 63 months in the tavern. Absolutely exceptional. I appreciate you for that. And Bobby did too. Did Little Fury just describe me? Yeah. Bobby, thank you also for the subscription over on Twitch. I don't know why I didn't get the notification for that. That's odd. But tips to the tavern keeper are always appreciated, friends. Thank you kindly. Give me just a second. I need to refill my mug. My Lilith keeps coming to whisper, "I adore you," very menacingly into my ear. He should be in bed asleep. There's nothing creepier or more adorable than children. Gotta love it. Actually, I was visiting my brother yesterday, and we took my littlest nephew to a pumpkin patch, and they had all sorts of like slides and things, and he had to go up a very tall slide. He went up a very tall slide. Jazz gifted. Oh, thank you, Bear. I appreciate you. Well, Jazz, thank you for gifting to Bobby. I appreciate that. It's very kind of you. I'm sure Jazz is already off to... Oh, she did. She gave out a community song. There we go. Oh, I can change it. I thought I did the one that I normally do, but I might not have. But we took my littlest nephew to a pumpkin patch, and he had to go up a very tall slide. And 3 steps from the top, he got very scared, and he didn't want to go up anymore. And he didn't want to go down either. So he was at the top of a very tall, and they were inflatable. He was not in any danger of being hurt, but he's at the top of a very tall slide. And he didn't want to go up any further, but he also didn't want to go down. And he was just screaming at the top of it. So we were trying to talk him down and talk him off of the edge, but he didn't want to do it. So we had to toss Everett over the side of the slide to go up and help push him up the slide, and then help him go down. And it was a beautiful and adorable bonding moment between the boy and my littlest nephew, who just turned 4, by the way. My brother's son just turned 4. Silence is golden unless you have children, then it's suspicious. Always. Always the case. Yeah, and my brother's boy, he's a regular Spitfire. He's very smart. I know people always say that about the children in the family. They're so smart, they're so cute. Yeah, he's very smart, he's very cute, and he's got such a big personality. And he loves my brother so much. Like him and my brother, they're best friends. They love each other. But yeah, Everett had to do his first like big brotherly sort of duties, helping little Dean over the edge. Alright, let's continue. Of the major temples in Krondor, the one least visited by the populace was that devoted to the goddess of death, Limskragma. Though it was commonly held that the goddess sooner or later gathered all to her, it was usual to give votive offering and prayer for the recently departed, but only a few worshipped with regularity. In centuries past, the followers of the death goddess had practiced bloody rites, including human sacrifice. Over the years, these practices had moderated, and the faithful of Libs Krogma had entered the mainstream of society. Still, past fears died slowly. Even now, enough bloody work was done in the goddess's name by fanatics to keep her temple tainted by the patina of horror from most common men. Now, a band of such common men, with perhaps a few uncommon ones hidden among them, was being marched into that temple. Arutha stood silently by the entrance to the inner sanctum of the Temple of Limbs Kragma. Armed guards surrounded the antechamber, while temple guards in the black and silver garb of their order filled the inner temple. 7 priests and priestesses stood arrayed in formal attire, as if for a high ceremony, under the supervision of the high priest Julian. At first, the high priest had been disinclined to participate in the charade, but as his predecessor had been driven past the brink of insanity by confronting the agent of Merbandamus, he was sympathetic to any attempts to balk that evil. Reluctantly, he had agreed at last. The prisoners were herded forward towards the dark entrance. Most held back and had to be shoved by spear-wielding soldiers. The first band contained those judged most likely to be members of the Brotherhood of Assassins. Arutha had grudgingly agreed to this sham, but had insisted on having all suspects being Nighthawks in the first batch to be tested. In this case, the deception was revealed and word leaked back to the prisoners being held. When the reluctant prisoners were arraigned before the altar and goddess of death, Julian intoned, "Let us, the trial, begin." At once, the attending priests and priestesses, monks began to chant, one that carried a dark and chilling tone. Turning to the 50 or so men held by the silent temple guards, the high priest said, "Upon the altar of stone of death, no man shall speak falsehood. For before she who waits, before the drawer of nets, before the lover of life, all men must swear to what they have done. Know then, men of Krondor, that among your number are those who have rejected our mistress, who have enlisted the ranks of darkness and serve evil powers. They are men who are lost to the grace of death, to the final rest granted by Limbs Kragma. These men are despisers of all, holding only their evil master's will. Now they shall be separated from us, for each who lies upon the stone of the goddess of death will be tested, and each who speaks true will have nothing to fear. But those who have sworn dark compacts will be revealed, and shall face the wrath of she who waits." The statue behind the altar, a jet stone likeness of a beautiful, stern-looking woman, began to glow, to pulse with strange blue-green lights. Jimmy was impressed. As he looked on with Lottie, the effect added a strong sense of drama to the moment. Julian motioned for the first prisoner to be brought forward, and the man was half-dragged to the altar. 3 strong guards lifted him up onto the altar, used ages past for human sacrifice, and Julian pulled a black dagger from his sleeve. Holding it over the man's chest, Julian asked, simply, Do you serve Mermandamus?" The man barely croaked out a reply in the negative, and Julian removed the dagger from over the man. "This man is free of guilt," intoned the priest. Jimmy and Laurie exchanged glances, for the man was one of Trevor Hull's sailors, ragged and rough-looking in the extreme, but above suspicion, and judging from the performance just given, not a mean actor. He'd been planted to lend credibility to the proceedings, as had the second man, who was being dragged towards the altar. He sobbed piteously, yelling to be left alone, begging for mercy. Behind an upraised hand, Jimmy said, "He's overdoing it." Laurie whispered, "It doesn't matter. The room stinks with fear." Jimmy regarded the assembled prisoners who stared with fascination at the proceedings, while the second man was judged innocent of being an assassin. Now the guards grabbed the first man to be truly tested. He had the half-captivated look of a bird confronting a snake and was quickly led to the altar. The 4 other men were led without protest. Arutha crossed to stand next to Laurie and Jimmy, shielding them from the gaze of the prisoners by turning his back to the proceedings. He whispered, "This isn't going to work," Jimmy said. "We may not have dragged in that hawk up there yet. Give it time. If everyone comes through the test, you'll still have them all on the guard." Suddenly, a man near the front of the prisoners made a dash for the door, knocking aside 2 temple guards. At once, Arutha's guards had the door blocked. The man hurled himself at them, forcing the guards back. In a scramble, he reached for the dagger and attempted to strip it from the guard's belt. His hand was struck, and the dagger skittered freely across the floor, while another guard smashed him across the face with the haft of a spear. The man dropped to the stone floor. Jimmy, like the others, was intent upon the attempt to restrain the man. Then, as time slowed, he saw another prisoner calmly bend over and pick up the dagger. With the cool purpose of a man, stood, turned, reversed the dagger, and held the blade between his thumb and forefinger. He pulled back his arm, and, as Jimmy's mouth opened to shout a warning, he threw the dagger. Jimmy sprang forward and knocked Arutha aside, but he was a moment too late and the dagger struck. A priest cried, "Blasphemy!" at the attack. Then all looked towards the prince. Arutha staggered, his eyes widened in astonishment as he stared down the blade protruding from his chest. Laurie and Jimmy both caught his arms, holding him up. Arutha looked at Jimmy, his mouth moving silently, as if trying to speak with the most difficult task imaginable. Then his eyes rolled into his head, and he slumped forward, still held up by Laurie and Jimmy. Jimmy sat quietly while Rold paced the room. Caroline sat opposite the boy, lost in her own thoughts. They waited outside Arutha's bedchamber while Father Nathan, the royal surgeon, worked feverishly to save Arutha's life. Nathan had showed no regard for rank, as he had ordered everyone out of Arutha's room, refusing even to let Caroline glimpse her brother. At first, Jimmy had judged the wound serious but not fatal. He had seen men survive worse. But now the time was dragging on, and the young man began to fret. By now, Arutha should have been resting quietly. But there had been no word from within the chambers. Jimmy feared this meant complications. He closed his eyes and rubbed them for a moment, sighing aloud. Again he had acted, but too late to stave off disaster. Fighting back his own feeling of guilt, he was startled when the voice next to him said, "Don't blame yourself." He looked to find Caroline, had moved to sit beside him. With a faint smile, she said. He said, "Reading minds, Duchess?" She shook her head, fighting back tears. "No, I just remember how hard you took it when Anita was injured." Jimmy could only nod. Laurie came in and crossed the door of the bedchamber to speak quietly to the guard. The guard quickly entered and returned a moment later, whispering an answer. Laurie went over to his wife and kissed her lightly on the cheek, and said, "I've dispatched riders to fetch Anita back, and lifted the quarantine." As senior noble in the city, Laurie had assumed the position of authority, working with Volney and Gardan to restore order to the city in turmoil. While the crisis was likely over, certain restraints were kept in force. To prevent any backlash from angry citizens, curfew would stay in effect for a few more days and large gatherings would be dispersed. Laurie spoke softly. "Have more duties to discharge. I'll be back shortly." He rose and left the antechamber. Time dragged on. Jimmy remained lost in thought. In the short time he'd been with the prince, his world had changed radically. Wesley, hello, hello! So good to see you. Glad you made it in. Oh, looks like we're in ads. Sorry. Oh, no, ads start. Let me finish the chapter and then we'll run ads over on, which we'll snooze that for a second. From street boy and thief to squire had entailed a complete shift in attitudes towards others, though some vestige of his former wariness had stood him in good stead with dealing with court intrigue. Still, the prince and his family and friends had become the only people in Jimmy's life who meant something to the boy, and he feared for them. His disquiet had grown in proportion to the passing hours, and now bordered on alarm. The ministrations of the clergymen and the priests were taking far too long. Jimmy knew something was very wrong. Then the door opened and the guard was motioned inside. He appeared a moment later, hurrying down the hall. In short order, Laurie, Gardan, Valdis, and Volney were back before the door. Without taking her eyes from the closed portal, Carline reached out and clutched Jimmy's hand. Jimmy glanced over and was startled to see her eyes brimming with tears. With dread certainty, the young man knew what was happening. The door opened and a white-faced Nathan appeared. He looked around the room and began to speak, but halted as if the words were too difficult to utter. At last, he simply said, "He's dead." Jimmy couldn't contain himself. He sprang from the bench and pushed past those before the door, not recognizing his own voice crying, "No!" The guards were too startled to react as the young squire forced his way into Ruth's chamber. There he halted. Upon the bed was the unmistakable form of the prince. Jimmy hurried to his side and studied all his features. He reached out and touched the prince, but his hand halted scant inches from Ruth's face. Jimmy didn't need to touch him to know without a doubt that the man on the bed, whose features were so familiar, was indeed dead. Jimmy lowered his head to the bed, quilting, hiding his eyes, as he began to weep. And so ends Chapter 3 of A Darkness at Sethanon. Molly Sue, hello, welcome in. Ugh. So what was Jimmy's plan to do something? It was hard to focus over the music. So Jimmy's plan was initially to take the prisoners to the temple of Limskragma, which is the goddess of death in this world, and then essentially trick them into believing that they were going to have divine judgment brought down upon them if they lied whilst in the presence of Limskragma. Kay, hello, good to see you. It's been a while since I've read the Magician series. I had never heard of it before we had a couple of regulars recommended for Storytime, and now we're 4 books in, three and a quarter books into the series. So now Ruth is dead, apparently, which is a wild twist for a Tuesday evening. Wow. What a way, we're on chapter 3. I guess he's not the main character. Who knows? I guess we're going back to Pug. Pug is going to be the main character to fight Murmandamus. It is but a flesh wound. It is but a flesh wound, but he's dead. Wesley, how goes it? Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy. I am a bit in shock. I give up, I hate Apple. 7th time trying to renew and become a super fan. I'm sorry, Ashley. They changed so much on TikTok. TikTok and Facebook just recently updated. I cannot find anything that I normally would need or use. It's absolutely crazy. But yeah, the Magician series has been a wild ride. The first two books were very slow going, and then Silverthorn was a roller coaster ride. This one was a slow uptick, and now we're in the thick of it now. Bear says he's not saying anything. I'm thinking it's one of his doppelgangers. I mean, it very well could be. I'm gonna contact Apple so I don't fly off the handle. It's funny, my sister is a devout Apple user, and she's been having nothing but problems with hers recently. I've always been a PC and Android guy, because I like control of what I do. I know it's not as streamlined of an experience, but I like to have control over what I'm doing. But my sister, she's having all kinds of problems with it, because just having issues. I did like the previous ones, Kay. Yeah, Magician was a surprise, because I would not have read Magician on my own. Like, if I was sitting down, because I'm gonna go grab it. I'm gonna go grab it. Matter of fact, I liked Magician so much, I have 2 copies of it now. So this is the first book in the Magician series. It is huge. It is two books technically. You have Apprentice and Master. So it's Magician Apprentice and Magician Master. But like Lord of the Rings, I guess it was meant to be one volume when he originally wrote it. So they now publish it as one singular volume rather than having it split into 2. This is a massive book. This is huge. It's very dense, and it is a slow roll of a book. This book takes a long time to get going. It's not bad. It's still very good, but it's a very slow build of a book. And if I had been reading this on my own, I would have given up after about 100 pages. I would have stopped. I'd be like, it's taking a little bit too long. It's a little bit too much of a slow roll for me. You do not have a BDT badge, Ashley. I didn't know if they still gave those, though. Yeah, it takes almost 200 pages for this to get rolling. That is a reality. So it does take a very long time for it to get good. Oh, Kay is in an ad right now, damn it. I forgot we were running ads. I'll wait for Kay to get back. Yeah, it's just like there are some books that I will put up with that with. Like I'll read the Silmarillion, but even the Silmarillion doesn't take that long to get going. The Silmarillion is slow pretty much all the way through the Tale of the Elves, but I will put up with that because there's nostalgia involved there, there's history. I like that enough. With newer books, especially ones that don't have anything that is particularly unique about them, like I say, the first 150 pages of this, it's not really unique high fantasy. Like, Feist is a great writer and the world is really interesting, but the first 150 pages, you don't really get anything that's out of the ordinary as far as high fantasy goes. It's just decently well written, well organized high fantasy. So the first 150 pages are nothing mind blowing as far as the way that the book is put together. But then when you get to the parts where the first invaders come, right? And you see the strange sword that is made out of the hardened wood. I gave up on it and somehow gave it another chance just the right spot, right? I'll be honest, I did give up on it even with you reading it, but now I'm interested enough to pick it up on my own and fill in all the details that it makes. It is crazy because the book itself, it takes so long to get going. Like, I cannot emphasize enough that if we had not been reading this for Storytime, I just go to work, I'm going to continue listening while I do my shopping on my way home. Alright, Tyson, I appreciate you, bud. I'm trying to renew it because I accidentally let it expire and now they're being super annoying. Facebook and TikTok have both made it very difficult to subscribe and to, like, buy bits and whatnot. I wish there were better ways for these things to happen and that the platforms didn't take so much money from you guys. It's ridiculous. Yeah, and it's really not until the Wraith that we hit that. Won't even let me renew it. I had this happen before, and I tried doing it through Google Play on Matthew's phone. Yeah, it's just being a pain in the butt. Yeah, it's as much as I appreciate the support, I can't really insist upon it or even ask for it. I don't even like doing it because Twitch takes so much money from you guys to buy bits, and they take half of every subscription that you guys give. They're taking so much of your guys' money for you to support creators. That's why I don't ever bring it up, because it's not really worth it for you guys to support us when they're taking that much of your money. All of these platforms are, Wesley. I've been doing this for over a decade. These platforms, they get to a point where they're so big that the people factor gets taken out, and they're no longer focused on giving a good experience to people. All of YouTube is experiencing this right now, where they've completely moved away from the subscription model. If you subscribe to me or the Tavern on YouTube, you're not going to get any of our videos. You just won't. Because they no longer feed you things from the subscription feed. Kay, thank you for the sub over on Twitch. I appreciate that. Tips to the Tavern Keeper, always appreciated. Thank you kindly. Enjoy your Green Man's Drought there. What do you guys think? Should we read another chapter? Should we do another chapter? I'll leave that up to you guys. I'm up for it if you guys are. I don't know how long the next chapter is, but what I was saying before the ads kicked in. Don't watch the new Monster series on Netflix. My heart is in. Erin, you are something. Hillary, hello, good to see you. Welcome in. Guys, this is why I no longer subscribe on any more platforms. As you mentioned, they make a significant portion of your money, and if you wish to donate, it would be more beneficial to do so directly. Yeah, sadly. The only platforms that actually don't take all of our money when we do it is Patreon, gold memberships through Gilded, and Coffee. But gold memberships through Gilded are going away because Gilded's going away. And I don't like to tell people that they have to go to Patreon because you don't get anything directly from Patreon. Obviously, we put stuff out through Patreon, but it's not a part of like the main community thing. So it's I don't like sending. I don't know. I'm terrible at monetizing. I just want to give you guys stories, but the issue. This book takes so long to get going. Again, it's like 200 pages in, I think. Yeah, so this is about 200 pages in. That's how much there is. And if we had not been reading this for Storytime, I would not have finished this. I would have stopped at about page 100 if I were reading it on my own. Because it's so slow. But I'm glad that I read it on Storytime, because it is such a good book. It is worth powering through the slow burn of the first 200 pages. Because again, it's not bad. The first 200 pages are not bad. They're just slow. Like, the story is good, the characters are good, like, there's nothing frustrating about it. It's just very slow. So, it is worth reading, but if I had not been reading it on stream, I would have given up after 100 pages, because if something is that slow, my mind is like, well, it's probably going to be that slow all the way to the end. And I'm glad that we did end up reading it during story time, because if we hadn't, and now again, I own 2 copies of the book. We can't see it. Hang on. I went and got a hard copy because we found this for $7 at a bookstore, and I was very excited about it. It's in very good shape. It's got the original dust jacket, and yeah, we found this while we were doing a book rescue, and I had to have it because the other one that we got originally that we were reading, yeah, it's a slow start due to introducing most of them. Yeah, he sets up the entire world in the first book. So the first book is basically a prologue to the story. Yeah, I love going to like good secondhand bookstores, library book sales. $1, that's a hell of a deal. I'd take that. But yeah, and again, Silverthorn. This was a wild roller coaster. This one went so fast, and there's just non-stop. Like there's 1 or 2 chapters in here that really let you breathe, and there's just go for the rest of the time. Yeah, the original copy that we got, I don't know where it is right now. I think it's down here. Yeah, it's down there. It's under another stack of books. I'm not going to take it out. But we got that one through Thrift Books. And then the lady got this one through Thrift Books as well. And she thought that this was bigger, because the version that she got was different than this. But the one that they sent was this, and she was very grumpy about it. I don't know if I told you guys what the lady got me a gift a little while back. She got me the whole of the light novel set for Overlord. I don't know if any of you know what Overlord is, but Overlord is a Japanese anime and manga, and she bought me the light novel series, and I'm reading through that right now, and it's lovely. I'm enjoying it very much. All right, seems like the general consensus is we should do one more chapter. Let me see how long the next chapter is. Overlord, Wesley, Overlord. Let's see, this is... Yeah, it's not bad. The next chapter is about 15 pages. I think we can handle that. The lady bought me the first 6 hard copy volumes of the light novel series, and I'm very excited about it. "15 pages, another 3 hours, no biggie. Hopefully not." Yeah, so apparently there are like 32 books in the like the Rift Ward mid Kemia series. But the Rift War saga itself is 5 or 6 books, I think, if I remember right. walked away with a trunk full of books, that will happen. I have to be careful when I take the lady out to do book rescues because she'll want to leave with everything. And until we expand the tavern a little bit more, we don't really have space for more books. We shouldn't have bought all of the books that we bought recently. We just recently picked up a couple more books, so we probably shouldn't have done that. But that's what we do. I think it's 6 books. So yeah, you have Magician, which is Magician, Apprentice, and Master. Silverthorn, A Darkness at Sethanon, and then 3 from the Oh, I didn't know that there was some from the Kellerwan side of the story. That's interesting. That is interesting. All right, let's pick back up, friends. We'll do another chapter. Sorry, I just got distracted by the next 2 chapters editing tomorrow. Psychic Murder Bunny coming. Perfectly ordinary bunny rabbit. When I left, Lucas gave me a spending limit. Not a book limit. I did not tell him that the sale had a max book price of $10. Sneaky. Sneaky. Oh, I know I won't be in on the 23rd. I have a concert. What day is the 23rd? I'm so bad with... Because of how the lady and I work, I don't keep track of days nearly as well as I should. I'm constantly on 23rd. That'll be Thursday. Yeah. And put everyone on the couch to turn his room into a... The funny thing is that his room already has a bunch of shelves where his mom has forced him to keep books. He doesn't like to read, but his mom has forced him to keep books that are like in his age range and reading, just in case he decides to suddenly someday have an interest in simulating his brain. She keeps him in there. Alright guys, let us continue. Cue a rant. Wesley, I am offended. I never rant about anything ever. Tanner's teacher came over yesterday morning for a home visit, and the first thing she said was, "There's so many books." Yeah, we don't have a whole lot of books down here. We have a bunch on my desk here near where we do story time. Like I keep my the tavern favorites I keep here on the desk. I've got my Lord of the Rings and my Riders of Pern paperbacks down underneath here. Underneath a pile of other things, I have a copy of Phantom Tollbooth here. I have the books that we're reading presently for Endless Epic and Storytime. I have those up over here. And then just in case Bear decides to start plugging merchandise, I keep a copy of the Festival's book here so I can show people that if they're interested in picking up the Festival's book. And then over there in that corner, there are a bunch of books, and over there in that corner, and then inside, there's a cabinet behind me you can't see. There's a bunch of art and books in there. And then behind the bar, where we tell the stories, there's a whole other bookshelf, and then in the closet in that same room, there's a whole other bookshelf. Castle, I have a strong affinity for books and have always been surrounded by them while consistently purchasing new titles. Yeah, this is the book dragon stereotype, right? Like your treasure hoard is books. Bookcases, not shelves. No rants, just waffles. Right. Alright, here we go. Oh, we're seeing Tomas? No. I am guilty as charged and laughing hard. My brain's going, wait, did Castle say if my edits made book 1 better? Matty, not now. I don't know if I've messaged you back on that. I'll have to give it to you. Good night, Milo. Rest well. I hope that you have a wonderful sleep and that you rise tomorrow ready to conquer the day. And we will see you well and good on Thursday. I hope you're feeling all right, but make sure you get plenty of sleep. Make sure you're well hydrated. And we'll talk to you soon, alright, love? Castle, the treasure hoard is certainly full of books, as it ought to be. Alright. Let us continue, friends. We're now going to Tomas. Chapter 4. Embarkation. Thomas awoke. Something had called to him. He sat up and looked out into the dark. His more than human eyes showing him each detail of his room as if it were twilight. The apartment of the Queen and her consort was small, carved from the living bole of a mighty tree. Nothing appeared amiss. For an instant he felt fear that his mad dreams of yesterday were returning. Then, as wakefulness fully came to him, he dismissed that fear. In this place, above all others, he was the master of his powers. Still, old terrors often sprang unexpectedly to his mind. Tomas regarded his wife, Aglarana, slept soundly. Then he was on his feet, moving to where Callus lay. Almost 2 years old now, the boy slept in an alcove adjoining his parents' quarters. The little prince of Elvendar slept soundly, his face a mask of repose. Then the call came again, and Tomas knew who called him. Instead of being reassured by the source of that call, Tomas felt a strange sense of fate. He crossed to where his white and gold armor hung. He had worn this raiment only once since the end of the Rift War, to destroy the Black Slayers who had crossed into Elvendar. But now he knew it was time to wear battle garb again. Silently he took down the armor and carried it outside. The summer's night was heavy with fragrance as blossoms filled the air with gentle scents, mingling with preparations of elven bakers for the next day's meals. Under the green canopy of Elvendar, Tomas dressed over his undertunic, and his trousers were drew on the golden chainmail coat and coif. The white tabard with the golden dragon followed. He buckled on his golden sword and picked up his white shield, then donned his golden helm. Most of the books I currently have are cookbooks. That's better enough though, Tyson. Suggestion, if you like the Rift War books, you might like Michelle West Hunter's duology. Hunter's Oath and Hunter's Day. Someone else had brought that up. I'm not sure if I ever actually looked it up. But I've gotten a suggestion for that author before. I'll have to give it a look. I know what is different about this playlist. It doesn't match what's going on in the book. So I will get to you, Matty. I will. Obviously, the lady and I are going to be really drenched in work, figuring out what we're going to do for this bastard of a thing we've got going on. But we'll see what happens. Let's see. Maybe we do. Nope, not that. Let's see. Linda, hello, good evening. Okay, I think we should be all right with that. We'll see. We'll see if it is to Bethany's liking. For a long moment he stood again mantled in the attire of Ashen Shagor. Last of the Valheru, the Dragon Lords. A mystic legacy that crossed time bound them together. And in odd ways Tomas was as much Valheru as human. His basic nature was that of a man raised by his father and mother in the kitchen of the Castle Krati. But his powers were clearly more than human. The armor no longer held that power. It had been a conduit fashioned by the sorcerer Macross the Black, who had conspired to have Tomas inherit the ancient powers of the Valheru. Now they resided in Tomas, but he still felt somehow lessened when he forewent the gold and white armor. He closed his eyes and, with arts long unused, willed himself to travel to where his caller awaited. Golden light enveloped Tomas, and suddenly, faster than the eye could apprehend, he flew through the trees of the elven forest. Past unsuspecting elven sentries he sped until he reached the large clearing far to the northwest of the Queen's Court. Then he again stood in corporeal form, seeking the author of the call to him. From out of the trees a black-robed man approached, one whose face was familiar to Tomas. When the short figure had reached him, the two embraced, for they had been foster brothers as children. Tomas said, "It's a strange reunion, Pug. I knew your call like a signature, but why this magic? Why not simply come to our home? We need to speak in private. I have been away." So Aruthu reported last summer. He said you stayed upon the Suronic world to discover some cause behind these dark attacks by Mamandamus. I have learned things over the last year, Tomas. He led Tomas to a fallen tree and they sat upon the trunk. I am certain now, beyond a doubt, that what stands behind Mamandamus is what the Suroni know as the enemy, an ancient thing of awesome abilities. That terrible entity seeks entrance to our world and manipulates the Mordrell and their allies. Toward what particular ends, I don't know. How a Mordrell army gathering or assassins killing Arutha can aid the enemy's entrance to our space, time is beyond my understanding. For a moment he fell into a reflective mood. So many things I still don't understand, despite my learning. I almost came to an end to my searching in the library of the Assembly, save for one thing. Looking at his boyhood friend, he seemed possessed by a deep urgency. I found in the library was barely a hint, but it led me to the far north of Kelewon, to a fabulous place beneath the polar ice. I've lived for the last year in Elvardine. Thomas blinked in confusion. Elvardine? That means Elven Refuge, as Elvendar means Elven Home. Who? I've been studying with the Eldar. The Eldar? Thomas appeared even more confused. Memories of his life as Ashen Shagor came pouring back. The Eldar were those elves most trusted by their Dragon Lord masters. Those who had access to many tomes of power pillaged from the worlds of the Dragon Lords raided. Compared to their masters, they were weak. Compared to the mortals upon Midkemia, they were a race of powerful magicians. They had vanished during the Chaos Wars, and were thought to have perished beside their masters. And they live upon the Suroni homeworld. Kelewon is no more homeworld to the Suroni than it is to the Eldar. Both races found refuge there during the Chaos Wars. Pug paused, thinking. Elvardine was established as a watchpost by the Eldar against need of such a time as this. Cookbooks are Rabbit's collection to the point of a very overloaded bookcase, and a lot of them were either her mother's or ones that I have bought her. It's the best kind of home to be in, Bear. It's the best kind of home. You don't need to say sorry, Bethany. I want you to enjoy it, and the music. Most everyone can't hear the music, so if the music's affecting you, then it's affecting your experience in enjoying the story. I do my best to please as many as I can. Obviously, I can't please everybody. I'm not perfect, and I shed a lot, which makes it difficult for some people. But we do our best, right? All right, where was I? It's so much like Elvendar, Tomas, but subtly different. You remember, when I first arrived, I was made welcome. I was taught by the Eldar, but it was a different sort of teaching than I had undergone before. One elf called Kyla seemed responsible for my education, though many taught me. Never once in a year I spent under the polar ice did I ask a question. I would dream. He lowered his eyes. It was so alien. Only you among men might understand what I mean. Tomas placed his hand on Pog's shoulder. I do understand. Men were not meant for such magic. He then smiled. Still, we had to learn, haven't we? Pog smiled at that. True. Kyla and the others would begin a spell and I would sit and watch. I spent weeks not understanding that they were conducting lessons for me. Then one day I joined in. I learned to weave spells with him. That was when my education began. Pog smiled. They were well prepared. They knew I was coming. Thomas's eyes widened. How? Macross, it appears he told them a likely student might come their way. That indicates some connection between the war and these odd occurrences in the last year. Yes, Pog fell silent. I've learned 3 things. First, is that there is no truth to our concept of there being many paths of magic. All is magic. Only limits of the practitioner dictate what path is followed. Second, despite my learning, I am but just beginning to understand all of what was taught to me. For while I never learned to ask, while I never asked a question, the Eldar also never gave an answer. He shivered. That's so different from anything else. I don't know if it's the isolation or the lack of normal congress with others of their kind, or what. But Elvardane is so alien it makes the Elvandar feel as familiar as woods outside of Cryde. Pog sighed. It was so frustrating at times. Each day I would arise and wander the woods, waiting until an opportunity to learn presented itself. I now know more of magic than any in this world, now the Macross is gone. But I know nothing more about what we face. Somehow I was forged as a tool, without fully understanding my purpose. But you have suspicions. Yes, though I will not share them, not even with you, until I am sure. Pog stood. I've learned much. I need to learn more, this is certain. It is the 3rd thing I told you I had learned. Both worlds face the gravest threat since the Chaos Wars. Pog rose, looking Tomas in the eyes. We must be going. Going? Where? All of that will become apparent. We are poorly equipped to enter the struggle. We're ill-informed and the knowledge is slowly incoming. So we must go seek knowledge. You must come with me, now. Where? To where we may learn that which may gain us advantage. To the Oracle of All. Tomas studied Pog's face. In all the years that they had known each other, Tomas had never seen the young magician so intense. Tomas quietly said, "To other worlds. That is why I need you. Your arts are alien to mine. A rift to Kellerwan I can manage, but to travel to worlds I know only through millennia-old tomes. Between the two of us, we have a chance. Will you aid me?" "Of course. I must speak to Aglarana." "No," Pug's tone was firm. "There are reasons. Mostly, I suspect something even more dread than what I know. If what I suspect is true, then no one beyond the two of us may know what we undertake. To share the knowledge of this quest with another is to risk the ruination of everything. Those you seek to comfort will be destroyed. Better to let them doubt a while." Tomas weighed Pug's words. One thing was certain to the boy from Cryde turned Valheru. One of the few beings in the universe worthy of complete and utter trust now spoke to him. "I dislike this, but I will accept your caution. How shall we proceed? To traverse the cosmos, perhaps even to swim time stream. We need a steed only you may command." Tomas looked away, peering into the darkness. "It has been ages. Like all former servants of the Valheru, those you speak of have become stronger-willed over the centuries, and are unlikely to serve willingly," he thought, remembering images of long ago. "Still, I will try." Moving to the center of the clearing, Tomas closed his eyes and raised his arms high above his head. Pug watched silently. For long moments there was no movement by either man. Then the young man in white and gold turned to face Pug. "One answers from a great distance, but she comes with great speed. Soon." "Black Knight, hello, my friend, welcome in. Petra, hello, good to see you." "Things are going as well as could be expected in the tavern. I'm glad you're able to join us." Refrick, hello, hello. Okay, so I'm here in spirit. My baseball tee is playing, so I'm going to watch. That's alright, that's alright. I'm glad you're able to drop in. I've been well, Black Knight. We've been enjoying stories tonight quite well. It's been very enjoyable. Guys, we're about to see a dragon, by the way. Just so you all know. What Pug is talking to Tomas about is Tomas needs to come out. They're going to ride a time-traveling dragon. Can you imagine how much more wicked Journey or Back to the Future would have been if Doc and Marty had to ride a dragon to go back in time? Eren, you made it home safe. Good. Are you resting and well disposed? I hope. Mega Fluffy Bunny, hello, welcome in. That's funny, right? I think we need a proper films from Feist books. I think the first book would need to be a series. I think it would need to be like a 2-season series, and then the books, these 2 books, Silverthorn and A Darkness of Sethanon, could be films, I think. Mega Fluffy Bunny, thank you for the heart me. Tips to the Tavern Keeper always appreciated. I just walked in. I'm gonna have a kid cuisine. Glad to be here after a thoroughly miserable bout of pneumonia. You have to be careful with pneumonia. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, you're staying hydrated, and you're properly letting yourself heal, because pneumonia can be very serious. I'm prone to walking pneumonia because I had a bit of an issue where I died a while back, and then I got pneumonia when I woke up. So pneumonia is no joke. You need to make sure you take care of yourself. Bonnie, I'm very glad you could join us. Thank you for the hard mate. It's very kind of you. A lot more books should be made to movies or series. I'm on the fence about that. I love to see good books turned into movies and television, but it's done so rarely is it done well that I'm kind of just happy to let them be books. But if we were certain that these would be treated with proper respect, a good TV show of the first two, like 2 or 3 seasons, and then movies of Silverthorne and this would be wonderful. Yeah, I agree with you. It would very likely be butchered. Like, it would be absolutely torn apart. Movies lose a lot of context from the books, right? They do. Even movies as well done as the trilogy, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, probably one of the greatest trilogies ever made into film, still lost a lot of context, and to the point that Christopher Tolkien hated the films, and a lot of original fans of the book hated the films. And there are some things that they changed in the films that were not necessary. They could have been left the same. Worst case scenario, it would be Aragorn, and you do not want anything that you love to be Aragorn, not even a little bit. I have not seen it yet, Bethany. We were going to go see it in theaters, and then we didn't have the time. But the lady and I are planning to sit down with the boy and watch it at some point. But we haven't seen it yet. I agree. One of the things that Tolkien said is that he was not opposed to adaptation, but if you are going to adapt the source material, it has to be done with the utmost respect for the source. And the problem is that most things being made today don't respect the sources. Like in the case of The Witcher, the people who are writing The Witcher have said openly that they hate the source material, they hate the games, and to be fair, the gentleman who Andres also doesn't like the games because the games bring up the schools and they focus too much on the schools for the Witchers. But yeah, it just doesn't respect the source material at all, and because of that, it ends up being less enjoyable. The only reason why the first 2 seasons were enjoyable at all was because of Cavill's commitment to the source material. Um, all of Tom, yeah, it is sad that Tom Bombadil did not make it into the films. I understand why they didn't put him into the films because it does disrupt the flow of the adventure a little bit. But the point of Bombadil in the books is to explain the magic of the world. Is an explainer of the magic of Middle Earth. And we sort of lose that context because we don't ever see Bjorn and we don't ever see Bombadil. And they are the explainers of the magic for the world. They give us the context for how the magic in the world works. And it just didn't go well. And then we have other little things. We've talked about this probably 1,000 times during Storytime. How they don't explain the eagles. Like, everybody goes, well, why didn't the eagles just take them all the way to Mordor? Well, there's a very good reason why. But you don't ever learn about it in the films because they don't explain it. And so it just seems like this gigantic plot hole. And I've probably spent hours ranting about it. It would be very difficult to get worse than the last Airbender film. It would be, Matty. That is the truth. It would be very difficult to do worse than M. Night Shyamalan did. You've seen the Infinity Castle. Bethany, I'm so glad you got so into Demon Slayer. I remember when we were talking about it, and you decided to give it a chance. I'm glad that you've ended up liking it as much as you did. Oh. Getting too old to sit for this long. All right. What were we? We have. Let's see. Oh, I am not as far as I should be. Hang on. Take a sip. With a brownie and mac and cheese, corn. Aaron, you are hilarious. The Tavern and my bestie got me into Freerun. Freerun is a wonderful anime. Even if you don't like anime, Freerun is a wonderful anime. Demon Slayer is kind of hard to watch. It is really good. There's a lot of really good story, but the main character is not very likable and he's not very interesting. And you get this a lot with anime. It's the same thing with My Hero Academia. The main character of My Hero Academia is not very likable and he's not very interesting. And the characters around him are typically a little bit more interesting. But the little is called K-pop Demon Hunters, Demon Slayers, which is wrong. That's another one, K-pop Demon Hunters. If you've not watched K-pop Demon Hunters, go watch it because it is well worth a watch. K-pop Demon Hunters is a spectacular film. It's on Netflix. It's very, very good. Agreed, my friends go on and on, but I can't do Demon Slayer. Yeah, Demon Slayer is a really cool world, and some of the characters are really amazing characters, but the main character just isn't very interesting or well written. I did watch the new Bob's Burgers there, and it was very good. The lady and I watched it the other night. Took me years to get through Demon Slayer. Infinity Council movie is the only reason I got caught up. It was fair enough. But yeah, there are some anime are just universally great. Like if you've never watched the original Trigon is spectacular. It's well worth a watch. It's got some weird anime stuff in it that if you don't know anime, it'll take a little getting used to. Frieren Beyond Journey's End, I think I have it here. Yeah, I do. Because we were watching it in the guild. Frieren Beyond Journey's End is just unilaterally a spectacular series. It is one of the best series period that has been made in the last, I'd say, 20 years. And as far as anime go, this is a top tier anime. It's a top tier story. It is so good. So I really liked season 1 of To Your Eternity. Season 1 of To Your Eternity is one of the best first seasons I have ever seen. And it takes a rapid nosedive in season 2. So I part of me is excited for season 3, but the rest of me is still disappointed from season 2. I don't even think I finished watching season 2. Because I just it had such a great and incredible focus in season 1. Like if they had maintained that focus throughout, it would have been so good. But then they decided to start focusing on this, like the weird sort of like politics and drama aspect of it, and you get that in so many other things that it moved away from what made it good and unique and went into something that you can find in 1,000 other anime and TV shows and movies. It wasn't as good. In defense of the main character, I see massive growth in Infinity Castle in terms of his fighting skills. How many times can I say it? No, and don't get me wrong, like Tanjiro is actually better than a lot of the annoying, but like he's far better than Deku. Far better than a lot of like the main protagonists that don't ever do anything. But is One Piece worthy? Okay, so I will say this, Bethy. I have a deep-seated love for One Piece. I love One Piece a lot. One Piece is very hard to watch. The manga is better than the anime. So if you like reading manga, I would say reading the manga is worthwhile. The anime is very hard to watch because there's a lot of filler. The episodes are stretched out. It's very difficult. I love the characters, I love the story, and I love the world of One Piece. It's very hard to watch. It is legendary. It is classic. It is incredibly good as far as the overarching story goes. It's really hard to watch. If you give it a chance, you will fall in love with the characters. I'll say that. If you give it a chance and you go into it without a whole lot of preamble, you will fall in love with some of the characters or all of the characters. But it is very hard to watch. Very hard. It is one of the greats. It is. I'll stand by that to the day I die. One Piece is one of the greats. but it is very difficult to watch as an adult. Ashley, thank you for the chirpy kisses. I appreciate you, but thank you kindly, love. One Piece is, the anime is over 1,200 episodes. What I would do is, if you are interested in One Piece, they are republishing One Piece as Oda wanted it to be published in a series called The One Piece. And then that series will be published the way that he had originally wanted to write the story, and they're going to turn it into an anime. So I would recommend waiting for that if you're interested, because right now it is very, very hard to watch. And I say that as somebody who loves One Piece, and who has had my son watch One Piece. I love One Piece, but it is very hard to watch. Dinner time, 10 p.m. I'm watching SpongeBob. I love Fairy Tail personally and the Fate series. I like a lot of the world of Fairy Tail. Fairy Tail gaggles for so long. There's so much time wasting that goes on in Fairy Tail. Fairy Tail is one that I do think is worthwhile to watch if you like fantasy, you like anime. Fairy Tail is worthwhile to watch, but there's so much that goes into Fairy Tail, it's hard. The Fate series is good as far as its lore goes. Fate series is also very hard to watch because it's so poorly put together. The characters in the world and the lore are all very good, but it's organized like crap. I might try it again. I lost interest in Bleach because it also just kept going on and on and on. You get it. Yeah, and Bleach is another one of those ones. I love Bleach. Bleach is again one of the greats. But Bleach and Dragon Ball Z and Naruto and Boruto and One Piece, they go on and on forever, and the animes have so much filler, it's ridiculous. It's so hard to keep up with it. Those are the cutest TikTok gifs ever. I didn't get to see it pop up, but they changed the whole list. We don't have teeny deenies anymore over on TikTok, so. Everything in Fate is a canon multiverse too, like what? Yeah, Fate is put together like crap. Whoever wrote Fate is just terrible at organizational skills. Yeah, Bleach is great. The anime is really hard to keep up with because it's so much. There's so much filler in Bleach. Yeah, there's no more teeny deenies left over on TikTok, Erin. If you like that more melancholy tone, I love Ancient Magus' Bride is one I recommend across the board, Bunny. Like, Ancient Magus' Bride, it's wonderful because of the story and the characters, spectacular. Some of the best character writing in modern television is in Ancient Magus' Bride. Wonderful character, wonderful dialogue, I love it, the world is great. Second reason why I love it, it is the only real accurate representation, or close to accurate representation, we've gotten of Celtic folklore, like ever. Like ever. It's really the only Celtic folklore anime in existence. It's very good. Bleach was great, still working out. I love Bleach. Bleach is very good. Well, and that's what I mean, Matty, is that the whole thing is put together like crap. Like, Fate is put together terribly. There's no coherence to the way that Fate is organized, and that's why I gave up after Fate's Stay. Like, I couldn't do it. It's just too much to keep up with. Like, I've got so much other stuff going on in my life. I can't keep up with it. I loved what I saw of Bleach, which I think was a lot, but yeah, it just came up. Yeah, I love the whole world of Bleach. I even like Ichigo, even though he's not a very good protagonist. I do like Ichigo a lot. But Bleach is just has so much filler, it's ridiculous. I watched all, but that's what I mean, Matty. It's like there's just so much to it. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Bunny. I agree with you on that. I can't remember her name. It's been ages since I watched Ancient Magus' Bride. But yeah, the main character, the girl, she has a very, very good character arc. Very good character writing. I enjoy it a lot. Early Ichigo is just a normal high school student. I actually like his earlier character a lot better. When he starts, like, discovering who he is, in like season 2, he loses a lot of what makes him unique. And then later on, when you learn who his mom is and who his dad is, he's a little bit better. Yeah, Bear. So there's an anime called The Ancient Magus's Bride, and it's the only anime as of yet that has used proper Chise. Thank you, Bunny. Is the only anime ever that I know of that uses proper Celtic folklore in it, and it's got such good character writing, it's got such good story writing, the plot is very good. There are some things that could be worked on, but considering the landscape outside of that, Ancient Magus's Bride, buddy, if you're taking him out, take his beeper, because he's been chasing people at the gate. Honestly, I already read it. My Hero Academia, I like the world of My Hero Academia. Deku's story is not interesting, and Deku is not a good character. And even some of the main characters that go along with him are not very interesting. And the characters that are very interesting in My Hero Academia, you don't get as much of them as you should. Correct, Bear. The Ancient Magus's Bride. My Hero Academia is a lot easier to watch than the other ones we've talked about, though, Bethany. And their one's a lot easier to watch than the other ones we've talked about. Like, My Hero Academia is a pretty easy watch. I stopped watching My Hero Academia because I got tired of them just torturing their characters and calling it character growth. I hate when authors, writers, TV shows, I hate when they do that. It's terrible. That'll put me off of a series or a book or a show instantaneously. Like, if you're just going to torture your characters and then call that character growth, I hate that. That's terrible. It's bad writing. But the world of My Hero Academia and the characters and a lot of the things that happen are very interesting. It's also frustrating because there's never any sort of Shattered Angels sounds like an old one. I recognize the name. I don't know. Hang on, let me check. Let me check. I haven't watched this all the way through, but I did read the manga back when it was in Shonen Jump. I don't know if I've ever watched the whole series though. Petra. I love Death Note. I hate the ending of Death Note. The ending of Death Note is terrible. I'm not going to spoil anything, but the ending of Death Note is awful. You can watch Death Note up to the last 2 episodes, end it there. Don't bother watching the last 2 episodes. The last 2 episodes of Death Note ruin the entire series. Just watch up to the 2 episodes before the end of Death Note and then stop watching it. Because it gets ruined there at the end. Fairy Tail gets better at the last season. I love how it stopped meandering. Yeah, I agree with you that Fairy Tail gets better as it goes along, Matty. In the early season, there's a lot of meandering. There's a lot of just bollocks that goes on. Soul Eater also ends very badly. I like Soul Eater, but Soul Eater is sort of a mid-grade. Like, it's not super great, not super bad. Just sort of like in the middle, like a 5 to 6 in most places. It's an enjoyable watch, but there's nothing spectacular that Soul Eater does. Steins Gate is also kind of top for me as well. Starts silly and then goes full existential mother. If I remember Steins Gate properly, I agree with you, Bunny. Because I have 2 that are stuck in my head. I have Gate and Steins Gate, and I don't remember which one is which. But I think I agree with you. I only figured out Light was not good when he kills the 12th letter of the alphabet. Right. Well, and even that, I don't... Like, yeah, the way that they handled the end of Death Note is terrible. That's all I'll say on it. If anybody wants to watch it, Death Note is worth reading and watching if you want to. If you're into anime and you like those things, Death Note is worth watching. But the last 2 episodes are terrible. They're really bad. Don't bother watching them. Watch up to the last 2, before the last 2, and then don't. Okay, I'm gonna get back to reading, because we have 10 pages left. I apologize. I got off on a bit of a ramble there. Mad Doctor Time Travel. Maybe maybe I don't know. Hang on, maybe I haven't seen Steins Gate. I know the name, but I don't know if I've seen it. Oh no, I have not watched Steins Gate. I have not watched Steins Gate. I was thinking of Gate, which is a different one. That's the one where a gate opens between a magical world and Japan. I haven't seen Steins Gate. It's my actual mom's birthday, and I'm taking her out for dinner on Sunday. Spectacular! Tell your mom happy birthday from all of us. All right, I'm going to return to reading, and we'll pop back up and have a little bit more discussion here in a bit. All right, where was I? Oh, yes, right. The dragon was coming. Well, I stopped off right as we were about to see a dragon and was talking about. Oh, hang on. Actually, we need to run ads over on Twitch. Sorry, we're gonna run ads real quick, and then we'll start reading again. Good night, Black Knight. Have a great night. It was wonderful. I've got to take medicine, so that's all right, Black Knight. I'm glad you dropped in. I hope you enjoyed your time with us tonight. Are you talking about with Fairy Tail, Marty? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, like there was so much that they did that could have been implied in Fairy Tail that would have made it so much better. And they just spent so much time talking about. That's one of the things that I hate is when shows take time to talk about stuff that just doesn't matter. No. That's all right. That's all right, Bethany. Everybody knows the waffles are a part of the ecosystem here. So you guys know I love talking about new stories and anime and books and movies and music. I love talking about this stuff. So it's not a pain to me at all. I want to make sure that I get you guys the amount of book that I promised you. Yeah, what ends up happening with a lot of these mangas is you have to realize most of them are serialized. So some. Oh, good, good, baby. I'm glad. Some of these writers, these mangakas and manhwas who write these things, they're serialized, so they don't know when they're going to be cancelled, and a lot of times the stories go on a lot longer than they expect them to. So that ends up affecting how much the story is going one way or another. I just got my brownie left. You have to tell us how it is. Chemical Kid, welcome in. I'm glad. Thank you kindly. I am Castle. This is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore. Every now and again, I read you old stories. Tonight we are reading this. We just got done on a ramble about anime and such. I don't know if I've brought this up on during Storytime before, but if any of you watch anime, I strongly recommend watching To Be Hero X. Chemical Kid, thank you for the follow. You've marked us on your map. You should be able to find your way back the next time that you seek a story. Kayla, you said my body hurts, but I'm alive. But that's good news. You can recover from a little bit of pain. You can't recover from not being alive. I'm glad that you dropped in to let us know how you're doing. But yeah, if you 2B Hero X is spectacular television. It is one of the best things I've seen in a very long time. Like it is, I don't think it's quite on the level of Freerin, but it's up near Freerin as far as its quality. Not an amazing brownie. It's hard to mess up a brownie. I did. Okay, good. Because to be Hero X, so I would like to watch it with everybody if I'm being perfectly honest. It's kind of bad. Because to be Hero X is basically like The Boys or Watchmen. I didn't like The Boys. I like the first season of The Boys, kind of. I don't like anything that relies on like shock value. So if it has to be like murder or overwhelming sexual content or a lot of swearing, it's just bad. It's just bad, lazy writing to me. Like it's very hard for you to do something like that and it maintain quality. Carl Urban is a god. I love Carl Urban and just about everything he does, but this is my voice, yes. This is how I talk. I always like it when you get off in it. There's just so many good stories being made in anime right now. And so many people don't want to... So many people don't want to watch anime because it's a cartoon. But there's so many good stories in anime, right? They'll be like... I know so many people who I've told them you need to watch Gargoyles. And they're like, oh, well, that's a kid's cartoon. Yes, it's a kid's cartoon. What does that matter? It's still a great story. Still a great story. Gargoyles is one of the best cartoons that was ever made. But To Be Hero X is everything that I wish The Boys and Watchmen had been. Like, The Boys and Watchmen had a lot of potential, but they focused too much on, like, the shock factor of the gore and the sexual content and the nudity, and not as much as they should have on, like, the character writing and the character stories, and it was not as great as it could have been. To Be Hero X is everything I wanted out of those, and it does it on, like, a PG-13 rating. Like, it's so good. It's incredible. Yeah, Gargoyles is amazing. Again, if anybody has not seen Gargoyles, you should. Thoughts on Wednesday, just curious. I liked the concept behind Wednesday. I think the execution was severely lacking. Like, one of the things that I was looking forward to with Wednesday was this sort of expanded idea of the Addams family. The problem is that no one in the Addams family in Wednesday acts like they're in the Addams family. Wednesday doesn't act like she's a part of the Addams family. And her parents don't act like they're a part of the Addams family. It had so much potential. And as a standalone thing, I think that it's a well put together show. I think that Wednesday as like its own thing, it's a show, but as an Addams family property, I think it's severely lacking. I wish they had done better with Wednesday, because I liked the idea and I thought it had a lot of potential, but it ended up just being not as good as it could have been.
How bad?
Yeah, like it had so much potential. Like, I love Addams Family stuff because it's one of those few things where it's just sort of in its own niche. Like, you don't really get the feel of the Addams Family stuff anywhere outside of the Addams Family, right? And it just, yeah. I was bummed that it wasn't more Addams Family-esque, but they did the same thing with, like, Riverdale, and they did the same thing with Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I love Archie comics. I love the original Archie comics. I love them to death. And when they were doing a live-action Sabrina the Teenage Witch and a live-action of Riverdale, I was like, yeah, this is going to be great. And then it was just One Tree Hill and Gossip Girl and all of that, and it was bad. It was terrible. I didn't like them. I hated them. Castle, I agree with you that Wednesday is a distinct show from the Addams Family. What is enjoyable, I believe it could be improved. Yeah, Esther, absolutely. Absolutely. Did I miss something else that Barrett said? I didn't. Yeah, I guess that's fair. Bethany, like, there are some stuff that Netflix, like, occasionally Netflix will knock it out of the park, but most of the time it's sort of subpar, which is sad because they put a lot of money into the things that they make, and if they just had better writers who cared about continuity and quality, they would make things so much better, and they just don't. Have you seen Nightwalker? I have not, Petra. I have not. Okay, all right. I need to get back to reading. I need the dragon just showed up. We got a dragon that just showed up, guys. I got to get back to reading. And we'll all right. Let's continue. Yeah, The Witcher for sure. Bob's Burgers has absolutely incredible continuity for a cartoon. Like, insane. Like, the music and the continuity for Bob's Burgers for just a silly cartoon. Like, yeah, I have all kinds of praises for Bob's Burgers. Like, I don't think it's exceptional as far as story or anything goes, but if you want something where you talk about, like, high-quality, character-driven storytelling, Bob's Burgers is a great example of it. Because it's comedy, it's all slapstick. But they do so good at their character storytelling. Alright, I'm reading. Bethany's gonna throw tomatoes at me. Alright, let's continue. Moving to the center of the clearing, Tomas closed his eyes and raised his... Oh, where did they? Time passed, and the stars overhead moved in their course. Then in the distance the sound of mighty wings beating upon the night air could be heard. Soon the sound was a loud rush of wind, and a titanic shape blotted out the stars. Landing in the clearing was a gigantic figure, its descent swift and light, despite its size. Wings spanning over 100 feet on each side gently landed, a body bulking larger than any other creature on Midkemia. Silver sparkles of moonlight danced over golden scales as a greater dragon settled to the earth. A head the size of a heavy wagon lowered, until it hung just above and before the two men. Giant eyes of ruby color regarded them, and the creature then spoke. "Who dares summon me?" Tomas answered, "I, who was once Ashen Shagor." The creature's mood was apparent. Irritation mixed with curiosity. "Thinkest thou to command me as my forebearers were commanded by thine? Then know we of dragon kind have grown in power and cunning. Never willingly shall we serve again. Shouldst thou ready to dispute this?" Tomas raised hands in a sign of supplication. "We seek allies, not servants. I am Tomas, who, with the dwarf Dolgan, sat the death watch of Raoul at the last. He counted me as a friend, and his gift was that which made me again Vaharu." The dragon considered this. Then she answered. "That song was well sung and loudly, Tomas, friend of Rao. In our lore, no more marvelous thing has occurred, for when Rao passed, he coursed the skies one last time as if his youth had been restored, and he sang his death song with vigor. In it he spoke of thee and the dwarf Dolgan. All of the greater dragons listened to his song and gave thanks. For that kindness, I will listen to thy need. We seek places barred from us by space and time. Upon your back I may breach such barriers." The dragon seemed leery of the notion of one of her kind again carrying a Valheru, despite Tomas's reassurance. For what cause dost thou seek? It was Pug who spoke. A grave danger is gathering to strike this world, and even unto dragonkind it poses a terrible threat beyond imagining. There have been strange things stirring in the north, said the dragon, and an ill-aspected wind blows across the land these nights. She paused, pondering what had been said. Then I think it may be thou and I a bargain shall strike. For such purposes as thou hast spoken, shall I willingly carry thee and thy friend. I am called Riath. The dragon lowered her head, and Tomas adorately mounted, showing Pug where to step so as not to cause the giant creature any discomfort. When both were mounted, they sat in a shallow depression where the neck and shoulder between the wings joined. Tomas said, We are in your debt, Riath. The dragon gave a mighty beat to her wings and took to the sky. As they rapidly climbed above Elvendar, Tomas's magic kept Pug and himself firmly seated on Riath's back. The dragon spoke. Depths of friendship are not debts. I am of Rao's Get. He was to me what in thy world wouldst term a father, and I to him a daughter. Oh, that's crazy. This dragon is the daughter of the dragon who gave Tomas the armor, all the way back in Magician Apprentice. That's crazy. Crazy. While we do not count such kinship vital as humans do, still such things have come to some importance. Come, Valheru, it is time for thee to take command. Drawing on powers not employed for millennia, Thomas willed a passage into a place beyond space and time, where his brothers and sisters had once roamed at will, visiting destruction upon worlds unnumbered. For the first time in long ages, a dragon lord flew between worlds. The cats are just fighting in the background. Baby Mahal 1119, thank you for the follow over on Twitch. Welcome into the tavern. So very glad that you could join us. For all the folks who are new here, who have never been to the tavern before, I am Castle, this is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore, and every now and again I read you all a story. Tonight we are reading A Darkness at Sethanon by Raymond E. Feist, and you have stumbled your way in to a tavern at the end of the world, where all stories eventually come to rest. If you've entered through a portal, it means that you sought a story. Hi, I am looking for my sister. Do I look like her? I don't say that to be rude. I'm just wondering if there's any similarity. Oh, I see. Your sister sent you here. That makes more sense. I was about to say, do I bear a resemblance to your sister? I love your reactions to this story. It's a good story, man. That's how I... Mahal, who is your sister, if you don't mind my asking? And whereforth dost thou come from? These cars are ridiculous. Oh, Teresa. You're Teresa. Okay, wonderful. Well, welcome in. Sibling tome, exactly. Okay. You know what, guys? I hate to do it to you, but I think we're going to have to end here. You hail from Alaska? Alaska is very beautiful. I love Alaska. I've only been once. I think I'm gonna have to. Yeah, I waffled for too long, guys. I'm sorry. I think we're gonna have to end up here for tonight. I am expecting my brother at the tavern in about 10 minutes. Can you read that last line? Yes, yes, yes. Come, Valharu, it is time for thee to take command. Drawing on powers not employed for millennia, Tomas willed a passage into that place beyond space and time, where his brothers and sisters had once roamed at will, visiting destruction upon worlds unnumbered. For the first time in long ages, a dragon lord flew between worlds. Good night, Bonnie. I'm so glad that you joined us. Thank you for the gift as well, and I hope you'll come back for more story time. For everyone who is new here, I do stories on Tuesday and Thursday at around 4:30 Pacific Standard Time is the scheduled time. And then the lovely lady of the tavern, she does story time on Sundays after a bit of waffling on my part. Yeah, I think that's a really good place to stop, and we're about halfway through the chapter there. Yeah, it's getting a little bit late, and I have to get prepared for my brother to be here. I got to miss every bit of that red. How joy. What do you mean? What do you mean, Frost? Did you miss the whole thing? A bit of waffling, yes. Dougliest dog raiding. We just had someone raid us. Hang on, let's give the. I'm gonna scoop back so that we can. Hang on, let me blow the. I'm gonna give you tune on the raid horn. Let's see if it'll happen over here. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Frost, did you miss everything? Good night, Mary Beth. Rest well. Welcome into the Raiders. I am Castle. This is my tavern. And here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore, and every now and again I read you all a bedtime story. Tell you what though, because we're this is the end. We'll do 2 songs before we head out. Especially since we got folks in. Could one of the actually never mind, I'll do it. I will get it. The Dougliest Dog, thank you for the raid, my friend. What were you all up to today? Yes, I missed all of it due to my timing and needing to go get other things. I'm sorry, Frost. I'll make sure that the VOD stays up for you. It's only 6:30 p.m. That's true. We're a little bit ahead of you in. I'm in Pacific Standard Time, so it's not terribly late. But I have commitments of folk coming in. I still like for you to be here, though, Frost. Thank you for the read, despite the brief laughs and attention. Have a wonderful night, Castle. Thank you, Esther. Have a good night. Rest well. So very glad that you were able to join us. All right, we'll do Sick Note and we'll do Valhalla Calling. We'll scare off all the new folk with Valhalla Calling. Let's do Sick Note first. Now, for any of you who have never been in here before, when we do story time at the end, we all get together, we sing some tavern songs to send ourselves off into the night. So tonight we're going to do Sick Note, and then we'll do Valhalla Calling. Valhalla Calling should get everybody right and properly convinced to not come back to the tavern. Because we don't sing well, we sing because we enjoy it. I like the songs you sing. Not Sick Note, Valhalla Calling is better. Well, I appreciate your opinion, Esther. Alright, now Sick Note is a very beloved song in the tavern. It's one of the ones that has been requested the most, and it is an old song. It's gone by a few names over the years. Why Paddy's Not at Work Today, the Bricklayer's Song, Dear Boss Paddy, and the Barrel and Murphy and the Bricks. It is a wonderful old tune in the tradition of Irish songs, of sad songs being sung happily and happy songs being sung sadly. So, let us begin. Dear sir, I write this note to you to tell you of me plight, for at the time of writing I am not a pretty sight. Me body is all black and blue, me face a deathly grey, and I write this note to say why Paddy's not at work today. Was working on the 14th floor, some bricks I had to clear. To throw them down from such a height was not a good idea. The foreman wasn't very pleased, and being an awkward sod, he says I'd have to cart them down the ladder in me hod. Now clearing all these bricks by hand it was so very slow, so I hoisted up a barrel and secured the rope below. But in me haste to do the job I was too blind to see that a barrel full of building bricks was heavier than me. Mahal, you said, tell my sister to come to Alaska. At least go visit up in Alaska. So when I untied the rope, the barrel fell like lead. So clinging tightly to the rope, I started up instead. I shot up like a rocket till to my dismay I found that halfway up I met the bloody barrel coming down. Well, the barrel broke me shoulder, as to the ground it sped, and when I reached the top I banged the pulley with me head. I clung on tightly, numb with shock from this almighty blow, as the barrel spilled out half the bricks some 14 floors below. Now when these bricks had fallen from the barrel to the floor, I then outweighed the barrel and so started down once more. Still clinging tightly to the rope, I fell towards the ground. Still clinging tightly to the ropes, I started down once more. Wait, hang on, I'm lost. Still clinging tightly to the rope, my body racked with pain. When halfway down I met the bloody barrel once again. The force of this collision, halfway up the office block, caused multiple abrasions and a nasty state of shock. Still clinging tightly to the rope, I fell towards the ground and landed on the broken bricks the barrel scattered round. As I lay there groaning on the ground, I thought I'd passed the worst, but the barrel hit the pulley wheel and then the bottom burst. A shower of bricks rained down on me, I hadn't got a hope. As I lay there bleeding on the ground, I let go the bloody rope. The barrel did made heavier, then started down once more, and landed right across me as I lay upon the floor. It broke 3 ribs in my left arm, and I can only say, we hope you'll understand why Paddy's not at work today. Did Douglas Dog ever actually come in? I didn't see any messages from Douglas Dog. Let's see. No, Douglas Dog did not say anything. All right, well, thank you, Douglas Dog, and the Douglas Dog community for coming in. We appreciate you. All right, last song for the evening, friends. That is the sick note. It also goes why Paddy's not at work, Paddy and the barrel, Murphy and the bricks. It's got a bunch of names. The Bricklayer song is probably the most common one. I'm a little bit tipsy. All right, here's the song that's going to scare everybody off, friends. We are going to do Valhalla Calling. Now, you've probably heard of Valhalla Calling. It is a very popular song. It went viral on Netflix some time ago. I haven't done it in a while, so it's probably going to sound even worse than normal. But the song is very popular. We sing it a little bit differently than it is normally sung. We sing the verses normally. The chorus we sing. We sing the verses normally, as you would hear them anywhere else. Probably not quite as well as you might hear them other places. But then we sing the chorus in what is called throat singing or druid song. This is very grating for some people. Some people very much enjoy it. Some people do not enjoy it. It has been known to cause bleeding of the ears, rupturing of the blood vessels in the eyes. It has been known to cause spontaneous combustion, disruption of the nervous system, the vascular system, as well as the lymphatic system. It has been known to cause spontaneous pregnancy, as well as spontaneous aneurysms, and planar shifting at random. So, we cannot be held liable, nor are we responsible for any of these side effects as a result of listening to Valhalla Calling here in the tavern. You have been warned. If you decide to stay after the fact, that is entirely up to you. Yep, bleeding from the ears as well. Is Bethany off to bed? If Bethany is off to bed, good night. Good night, Bethany. Thank you for the wonderful night here in the tavern. It's always wonderful to have you. All right, here we go. Ships on the vigor of the waves are skimming, bearing summits to the verdant plains. Each horizon is a new beginning. Rise and reign. Far from the fjords and the ice-cold currents, ravens soar over new frontiers. Songs and sagas of a fate determined. Shields and spears, vows of favor or the thrill of plunder, pulled together for the clan and kin, clank of hammers and the crash of thunder, pound within. Here it comes, cover your ears. Oh, the echoes of eternity. Oh, Valhalla calling me. Oh, to pluck the strings of destiny. Oh, Valhalla calling me. Valhalla calling me. Sails are swaying on the crimson rivers, blood and glory in the fighting fields. Shields are shattered into splintered timbers, iron and steel. Fires are rising and the bells are ringing. Glory take us into Odin's halls. Golden glimmer and the sound of singing as God's call. Here it comes again. Oh, the echoes of eternity. Oh, Valhalla calling me. Oh, to pluck the strings of destiny. Oh, Valhalla calling me. Valhalla calling me. Wind and the waves will carry me. Wind and the waves will set me free. Wind and the waves will carry me. Wind and the waves will set me free. Oh, the echoes of eternity. Oh, Valhalla calling me. Oh, to pluck the strings of destiny. Oh, Valhalla calling me. Valhalla calling me. Thank you for the song, my friends. Absolutely lovely to sing with you. I hope nobody's ears ruptured and that nobody was sent into another realm or spontaneously made pregnant. Caleb, this is Base. Thank you for another great night, Castle. It's so good to be back with you in the tavern. It's wonderful to be back with you as well, Ashley. I'm glad that you and Mateus are doing well. I'm glad that you're able to come in and help tend bar. For our friends who are over on Twitch, we are going to raid out to share the love. Great song, Castle Valhalla. Well done. Execute the song nicely. Castle, love the throat singing. I'm glad. Esther, hope you and Essie are doing well. All right, friends. Yep, this is where we're going to end for tonight. Thank you so much for the love and support tonight. So glad so many of the regulars and barkeeps made it out to the tavern this evening. It's wonderful to see you all. And for all of our friends on Twitch, again, we're going to raid out to show the love. Thank you all so much. We will see you again on Thursday for Harry Potter and the Deathly Hollows. We're just getting heated up over there. It is going to be a good one. Gonna finish packing up for my trip. See you all on Sunday. Frost, be safe, my friend. Make sure that you are taking care of yourself, and we will see you Sunday. Quirt, good night. Esther, Tyson, Kayla, Ashley, Erin, Bear, Matty, Destiny, Molly, Teresa, Mahal, Bunny, Bethany. I think I got everyone. Did I miss anybody? Want to get? It's like that scene in Despicable Me where he's like kissing all of the minions at the end of the night. Trying to make sure all of the minions get kissed before I head out. Tyson, have a good night. Frost, have a good night. All right. Good night, everybody. I will see you all on Thursday, and there will be more stories, of course, tomorrow. Guten Nacht, mein Freunden. Haben Sie einen wunderbaren Nacht. Good night, good night, good night. All right, friends, we'll see you all soon. The doors are closing, and that is sad, but they will open again the next time we all seek a story. So until then, stay bloodthirsty, my friends, and I will see you next time.
Oh my god. That one was pretty freaky. I never beat it. Mostly because I got really annoyed with the stupid robots.